Good evening and welcome to the 2022 virtual Great Lakes Fishing Show. It's night two, and last night was incredible. We had just like I said, an all-star cast, and we got the same thing tonight. A lot of awesome guests coming on, and hope everybody enjoys the show. I think last night the feedback that we received was pretty good. I think people enjoyed it.
Really good. Yeah. I mean, there was, year over year, I think we were running about double the number of people. So that's fantastic.
So great audience and some incredible guests. And speaking of incredible guests, let's bring one in right now. He is Captain Richard Hajecki from Crazy Yankee Sport Fishing. Captain, how is everything going tonight? How are you?
What's going on, guys? I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good.
We're ready to go. We won't have you on tonight to talk about a little boat setup and talk about Canon and Humminbird. And you're sitting in a boat right now. You're not in the water, but sitting in a boat right now. Tell us about what you got going on.
I wish I was in the water, but no, I'm sitting here at the marina, sitting in a brand new Starcraft 196 Fishmaster. So what we're going to kind of go over some of the stuff we do when we set boats up for customers. And I think I'm going to start off with some of the Canon products first and get those out of the way. And then I think we'll have questions and people more interested in the fish finder GPS end of it. It seems like there's a lot of people that are a little bit confused on different types of sonars and whatnot. So we'll go over that, but we'll start off with Canon's downrigger lineup. Probably the two most popular downriggers that I sell here at the marina is the Magnum 10 and the Optimum downrigger. The Magnum 10 really has been the workhorse for Canon over the many years. That downrigger goes down, it comes back up. It's got auto stop, but it's a pretty simple downrigger, and it's priced in that $550, $600 range at most of the places you find online. So it's a reasonably priced downrigger, and it does the basic function of a downrigger is basically to bring your lure down to wherever you want it and then retrieve it when it's time for it to come up. The Optimum downrigger was released a few years ago, and that took over for the Digitrol 10 that we had for probably 10 years. The Optimum is just packed with features that I know a lot of people love. Some of the features I use a lot are going to be the up and down. You can change the speed. You've got 5 speeds up, 5 speeds down. So you can slow your baits on the way down, or if you're pulling big weights, you can kind of slow them on the way up so that you're not drawing a lot of power. You're not stressing your downrigger out. A lot of times we'll slow our baits down when we're running meat, so we're not pulling the meat or the hook into the meat and on the way down when it's going very fast. They also have options in there where you can jig your downrigger ball. You can either hook it up to your Humminbird fish finder or get a transducer so you can bottom track. You can also hook it into your fish hawk so that you have your probe data right in the back of the rigger. So there's a lot of different functions and features that downrigger does. And for the techie guy or the guy that likes the ability to do a lot of that stuff, the Canon Optimum is probably for that guy. Now, both the Magnum 10 and the Optimum come in the normal series, which is all black, and they've also have a tournament series. With the tournament series, and it's funny, I had a customer today call. He thought everything was decked out with stainless steel on that rigger. That rigger comes with a stainless steel boom and a stainless steel spool, but the base is still the plastic base that you find on all their downriggers. So we've got 2 different downriggers, and they both have 2 different flavors, if you want to call them that. So some of the accessories and some of the ways we mount them here, I'm going to try and flip the camera. Hopefully we don't get disconnected here, but I've got some downriggers here mounted on this Starcraft here. So you can see that Starcraft, it comes with a track already. So we utilize this pedestal here that slides into the track. This is a Canon accessory so that you can mount your downrigger into a track. We use that a lot on boats. Another accessory that we use on our Robalos is called a gimbal mount. And I'll lay this down here. What this does is it slides into that's probably not a good way to put it, but this slides into a gimbal mount rod holder. And on our Robalos, we'll mount the downrigger to the top of that. It slides in, and you can take the downrigger on and off. So you can use it for fishing and family fun. But you're also noticing in this screen here, we've got the Downrigger mount dual axis rod holders on this Downrigger. So we've got those as a nice accessory. You also have the Canon rod holders here. These are the dual axis rod holders. And the reason they call them dual axis is they spin 360 and they also pivot. So if I just back up here, you've got your up and your down, and you also can spin it 360 degrees that way. So those are two of the rod holder options that we have over at Canon. Some other accessories we utilize a lot is this is a Retro Ease weight retriever. This helps bring your cannonball in when your downrigger is out perpendicular to your boat and you've got the boom extended. This weight retriever actually mounts. Let me see if I can move this rod holder. If you look there, there's two holes right underneath the Canon logo. That mounts in there. So it's a very easy install. On a lot of the boats where we're fastening these downriggers down to the gunnel of the boat, we're utilizing these deck plates, which helps spread out some of the weight from the downrigger when it's out extended on the boat. So those are some of the accessories we use a lot when we're mounting these downriggers on boats. And I'll just come over here real quick and we'll flip through some of the screens. Hopefully that's not too bright. Actually, I can probably turn the backlight down here.
Yeah, that looks good.
So we'll come back out of here. But this screen right here is probably the screen I have on I would say 95 to 100% of the time. But it's giving you all your surface and your probe data from your fish hawk. And if you look at the number up here, this is coming off of the Humminbird Solix that I have there. We're out in the water, so it's bouncing all over the place, but that's going to show you the depth that you're over. So when you're in the back of the boat, having all this data right here is really nice. You know, in a lot of boats, people are standing in the way of the displays up at the helm. So if you're back here rigging, this downrigger gives you all the data you need to make you efficient, maybe put extra fish in the boat, and do a lot of things. But we'll flip through some of the display screens that you get with the Optimum. You can see I'm cycling through here. So whatever one really fits you, you can choose. Here is basically a fish finder on your Canon downrigger, utilizing the transducer from your Humminbird. So we're back to that screen. So there's a bunch of screens you can use to kind of tailor it to what you like. All right, let's flip this and hope. All right, so we're back here. Do we have any questions on the Canon products out there?
Yeah, we've got quite a few questions already. Let's start with Derek Mule. And Derek would like to know, what's the difference between the Mag 5 and the Mag 10 other than the extendable boom?
Yeah, so I believe the Mag 5 is now discontinued. I don't think they sell the Mag 5. So there's just the Mag 10 and there's the Optimum. But when they did have the Mag 5, or if you do find a Mag 5 out there, typically that did not have an extendable boom and it did not come with a swivel base.
All right. How about this one? It looks like Steve Morris from YouTube. And Steve is asking, what's the benefits of positive ion?
You know, I really can't answer that question for you. I run braid on all my downriggers, which brings me to another great point. So in these Canon Optimum downriggers, you can go in there and set what type of line you have on there and how much line you have on there. And what that does is it changes the algorithm in the downrigger to keep your line counter accurate. So on my downriggers, I run 150-pound braid. And I do that for a few reasons. I like it because there is a lot less blowback in comparison to cable. And that's helpful for me when I've got customers on board and we get a green fish at the back of the boat. I don't have to worry about my gear being spread further back and netting that fish harder. Another reason for the braid is to not have to worry about the positive ion. Now, there are some people who really believe in it and they dial it in. I'm just not the person that could probably answer that question for you the best.
All right. Here's one from Facebook and Chris Engart. He says, where does Canon make all of their products? Are they made in the U.S.?
Yep. Canon products are made in the U.S. over in Mankato, Minnesota. Should be right around the corner from you guys, isn't it?
Another good Minnesota company.
Yeah.
All right. Steve Connolly on Facebook says, what pound weights can the Canons handle, and what is your preferred weight to run?
Yeah, great question, Steve. I will run weights anywhere from 6 pounds all the way up to 20 pounds. They say not to run anything more than a 20-pound weight. A lot of times in the spring when I'm brown trout fishing and I'm fishing skinny water, I'll put 6-pound weights on. What that helps me do is when I do have any boat action from waves or other boats that are going by, it gives my lures a little more action because the balls kind of swing down there in the water when the boat's rocking. But when I get out there in May and I'm targeting kings and I can fish kings down over 200 feet, I'm going down with 20-pound weights and they handle them absolutely fine.
All right, Trevor, you want to grab one here?
Sure. Let's see. What do we got? This is a good one on the rod holders. I think this is Steve again over on YouTube with the where'd it go? Lost it. Are you able to mount the dual mount access rod holders without using the track?
Absolutely. You can just bolt them right down to your boat. On my boat, Canon does make a smaller deck plate. So we saw the larger deck plate that we mount downriggers with. Canon does make a smaller deck plate that dual axis rod holder will mount right to. And so, yes, you do not need a track to mount those. You can mount them however you'd like.
Here's another good one I see there. That this is a real common one that we get, and we get involved in this too. That's Jim Lemon down there on Facebook. And that is, what about the power supply? So it's a good one for you guys being boat riggers. What do you guys do for your power supplies for your riggers?
I like to run it right off the battery. That's going to be, let's call it the cranking battery. So a battery that's constantly getting a charge while you're running. So when we're fishing with downriggers, we're typically moving. There's an engine running. So we've got a charge going back into there. So we typically run our downriggers straight to the cranking battery. What we also do is we recommend putting a 30 amp fuse or a 30 amp breaker. And even though there's a breaker on the downrigger, put it in line from in between the battery and your, let's call it the boat side of the wire harness. So you got a boat side and you've got the downrigger side. So put a 30 amp fuse or a 30 amp breaker in there and go with, if you open up the recommendation, if you open up the Canon manual, it'll tell you what they recommend for what gauge wire to run. At least meet that or go a little better. I know on my boat we've kind of exceeded that, and I have absolutely no issues with power. Or a lot of times when you starve these things, these electronics for power now, they do funny things, and they can possibly break. So you want to make sure you give them plenty of power.
All right, we're going to do one more on Canon, then we're going to let you get into some Humminbird. And this one's from Rob Ferguson. Rob was with us last night as well. Do you set your clutch on the downrigger loose, so it's just holding firm, or do you keep it tight?
I keep it tight, just tighten it right up. I've never even really messed with the clutch. Just tighten her up and let it go.
All right, you want to talk some Humminbird?
Yeah, let's go into Humminbird. So Humminbird offers really two different models of fish finder GPSs. We've got the Helix lineup and we've got the Solix lineup. And if you look over here on this Starcraft, we've got a Solix 12 mounted here. We're running the Lake Master map, and we've got a split screen going right here. But this is the Solix. This is their flagship touchscreen and buttons. You can also control your Canon downrigger. Over here on the side, it gives you the options to control that. And if you look over here, maybe I'll just kind of show you the screen. But if you look over here on the screen, you can see you can also have your fish hawk data live on the screen. The other model they have is called the Helix. This is probably the most popular Humminbird fish finder out there. They make them in anywhere from 5 to 15 inches, and going back to the Solix, they make a 10, a 12, and a 15. But the Helix you see in the ice fishing world, lots of times on the bass boat guys and the walleye boat guys, and then on Lake Ontario, this is probably the unit I sell the most. It is not a touchscreen unit. It's buttons only. They both kind of do the same thing. They're fish finders, they're GPSs. And if you have any questions about which one's right for you, or you want some more information on them, give me a holler, shoot me a message on Facebook or an email here at the shop, and I can go into it. But just the high level, the Solix allows you to customize things a lot more than the Helix. If you're a techie guy and you like to get in there and play with settings, the Solix is for you. If you want something that is simple to run, simple menu operation, and gets the job done, the Helix is probably where I point most people. So we've got our two different lines from Humminbird with the Helix and the Solix. You've also got different types of sonar. A type of sonar we use probably the most, and it's probably the most popular and the oldest sonar that we have out there is just your traditional sonar. So a lot of people talk about traditional sonar. They also throw the word chirp in there. Here at the marina and for the fishing we do, we're not big fans of chirp when we're out there trolling for salmon and trout. Most of these Humminbirds come with chirp transducers now, and Humminbird really is an inland lake. They've been an inland lake type of unit. So a lot of the bass guys and the walleye guys are using these, and the transducers they have with them are great transducers. But there's a better, in my opinion, and on the lake here, there's better options out there for the type of fishing we do. So I'm kind of going to go through what I call a good, better, best solution to plug into these Humminbirds, which gives you the best of both worlds. We'll start out with a typical transducer that you see a lot of, and it's a transom mount transducer. This is an Airmar, and most of these transducers I'm going to show you tonight are Airmar transducers. This is a P66. It is a dual frequency 600 watt transducer. It gives you a low and a high frequency, a 50 kilohertz and a 200 kilohertz. So all the transducers I'm going to show you tonight will be dual frequency transducers. The best way to explain the two different kilohertz is the 50 is a wide, really powerful cone, where the 200 is a narrower cone and much weaker. So when we are running out in the morning, we're utilizing the 200 kilohertz. The screen doesn't get washed out. It allows us to mark bait and fish when we're moving at higher speeds. When we settle in to fish, that's when we switch over to the 50 kilohertz. So this, for people who have aluminum boats or people who are afraid to put a hole in the bottom of their boat, this P66 is one we sell a lot of here, especially with the aluminum boat line that we sell. Probably the most popular transducer out there that we sell is the B60 from Airmar. Again, a dual frequency transducer. You basically cut a hole in the bottom of your boat, and you take this nut, you pop the transducer up from the bottom, put the nut on the top, and you basically sandwich this into your boat. This gives you a really good picture when you're running around on plane, whereas the transom mount doesn't do as great when you're on plane. But when it comes to trolling, all three of these are probably going to be pretty equal in giving you a good picture when you're at troll. So that's probably our most popular transducer. But the guys with the bigger boats that don't tend to trailer, that's when we come in with these fairing block transducers. So this blue thing in my hand here is a fairing block. We cut this to the angle, the dead rise of the boat, so that this transducer can shoot straight down. The B60 I showed you has a tilted element in it, so I can have it, that's a 20 degree. So your dead rise can be anywhere from 24 to 16 degrees, and that transducer will work. It's got about a 4 degree variable there. Where this one, you want them pointing straight down. So what we do is we cut this at an angle to match the dead rise to your boat. And what that fairing block does is it gets it away from the hull of the boat where there's a lot of turbulence and air bubbles, and it just gives you a cleaner picture when you're running. So that's really the best option, and that's the option if somebody does not trailer the boat that we typically push them towards. So these are all traditional sonar, not chirp transducers. Chirp transducers are great for guys that are fishing, ice fishing, or trying to get better target separation off the bottom. You know, the guys that are bass fishing and drop shotting. Chirp just gives you a prettier picture and better target separation. But the problem with chirp is you get very small cone angles. So a typical chirp transducer will show you about half of what these transducers I just had in my hand will show you, because the cone angle is about half of what you'll get here on the low frequency with these dual frequency transducers. So let's move into the next type of sonar, side and down imaging. The Great Lakes for trolling salmon, trout, and walleye. There's not a huge use for it. The side imaging I've started to use a little bit more, and especially in the fall when we're fishing offshore, July, August, September, when we're getting into that later season, especially, I guess, more so September, when the fleet starts to put their boats away and start concentrating on hunting, and we're still out there fishing. We don't have that big network. So the side imaging allows me to look 400 feet on either side of the boat, and I can get offshore and look for piles of bait, which is what those fish are out there feeding on. So side imaging is starting to play a role in how we fish August, September out on Lake Ontario. And now the new craze is going to be your live sonar. So we've got Mega Live now. I don't have any seat time with it yet. It'll be on the boat this year, and I'll have a pretty good idea of how we can use it with our fishery soon. But I know there's a bunch of guys out there using similar type of units, and they really like it. So that's what we got from the Humminbird side. Any questions that I can help answer there?
Richard, appreciate you coming on. You were right. We didn't give you enough time tonight, but you definitely gave us a pretty darn good look at what's going on there. But you know what? I think we'll have to have you on the podcast sometime, and I'll just give you as much time as you want to go over this stuff. But I appreciate you coming on tonight and giving us an overview and answering a bunch of questions about the Canon lineup. But we got to go. So appreciate you coming on tonight. And again, always a pleasure talking to you and learning from you.
Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. That was Captain Richard Hajecki tonight. And we got another captain waiting for us. Again, the question on that one, we're going to give it to Jim Lemon over on Facebook. Real good question there on the Canon stuff. But we got Captain Pete Alex waiting in the green room. Let's bring in Captain Pete. How you doing tonight, sir?
Very good, Chris. Hi, Trevor.
Hey,
Good to have you. And we wanted to bring you on tonight to talk a little bit of Leadcore and specifically Stealth Core. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Stealth Core is similar to a traditional Leadcore. It has about the same dive curve as traditional Leadcores. But probably the most unique feature about Stealth Core is it's a two-tone Leadcore, and it's consisting of black and red, and they alternate every 30 feet like regular Leadcore. But it's made of just these two colors, which are, black is a very low visible color, and red is a color that dissipates as it slowly descends into the water column. So it's a really low vis line presentation versus your traditional Leadcores, which have a lot of high vis colors. They're meant to be seen, like the ones here. So that's probably the biggest feature about it.
All right. How do you use that on your boat, Captain Pete? What does your kind of setup look like when you're going to go out and do some trolling? How do you kind of get in that setup on your rods, and what does your spread look like when you're running the Stealth Core?
Well, it's going to be similar once again to a regular Leadcore program. We run Leadcore primarily when we're fishing, say, the top 50 feet of water, fishing high fish. A lot of this is in the spring or offshore. Again, fishing high. When fish start to get deeper, we start going to weighted steel. But it's going to be a traditional program. We're going to have either inline boards with cores, or big boards pulling cores, or shoot rod with Leadcore.
we one of the things we heard it last night, and I think we'll hear a lot of it tonight, but there's a lot of new anglers coming in, that are, maybe they're not new anglers, but they're new to fishing on the Great Lakes. And, I see this from a personal perspective, but, when you're running segmented Leadcore, whether it's, you've got a 2-color setup and a 4-color and a 6-color and an 8-color and a 10-color, for a small boat guy, that's pretty tough to manage in an 18 or 20 foot aluminum boat. And I noticed you've been doing more things, just watching your YouTube and your Facebook channel. You're doing some things, using snap weights, and it looks like you're combining that with Leadcore in some cases. Is that something I'm seeing that you're kind of working on right now?
Correct. We've been using the torpedo, basically the snap weight system, and adding, especially with Leadcore, the 2 and 4 ounce torpedoes in conjunction with, say, 5 cores or 7 cores. It'll reduce the amount of rods that a guy has to carry on his boat, especially the small boat guys or guys just getting into it. You can take a good basic 5-core setup, which is very useful in the spring, and you could use these snap torpedo weight systems, which I have some very good videos on my YouTube page. And I think Mark Kulak, hopefully he touched bases about the torpedoes here after this evening here. So it's an easy way. You snap these weights on. We snap our torpedoes onto the front end of the system, which is the leader end. We put these torpedo weights on. And we'll take a 5-core setup and make it into a 7-core or 9 or 10-core setup just by adding the weight, not having to go get another rod out of the cabin, invest in another big rod and reel setup. A $15 or $20 weight and a snap, and you're in business taking a 5-core and converting it into whatever else you want.
So you're putting that on the leader end. You're putting that between the leg core and the lure is where you're actually putting that weight.
Definitely, you're going to get more depth putting that weight on the front end of that assembly versus the back end of the assembly, for sure. And I also think it changes the presentation. Again, you can see a couple of these videos on my Facebook page. I think the presentation of having the line go down and then snap weight and your lure horizontally behind it, it's more of a downrigger presentation, having that weight assembly or the weight clipped onto the front of the leader versus all the way in the back end. And again, you're going to get definitely more depth putting it in the front than the back.
Cool.
I think the Canadian guys do it in the back. I think Ivan does it in the back for sure. But
yeah, you always hear about the kind of the undulating action of leg core, and that's what kind of when you fish flashers or spoon back there with lead core, traditionally the more line, the more current, the more variables you have back there. This is going to be your presentation is going to be meandering around a little bit back there. So when you clip on a weight to the front of it, you've basically reduced that amount of meandering, I call it, from that weight to the back. So you've made it more of a traditional presentation versus a long line presentation that's, kind of doing this, or your flashers are going helter-skelter back there. So it cleans that presentation up, and I've found it definitely more productive. Great.
All right, that was actually a question that we had on the show. Let's go to the next question here. We've got Jeremy Maslowski, and he just wants to know specifically, what do you see as the main advantage of Stealth Core over other products, other lead core products like Suffix Advanced?
Well, really, other than what I already stated was, the color. The color is more stealthy. The lead core itself, I'm just going to read. It's a resin-based coating system rather than a dye-based coating system. So the color is going to be less fade resistant in the sun day in and day out. So that is one advantage that might be over that product. It also has a low stretch polyester rather than your traditional nylon sleeve. So again, I'm not really familiar with the 832 Suffix product, but I know this product may be similar. But the lead core itself is a bit of a different design and has different properties than your traditional lead cores out there. The dive depth is again about the same as traditional lead core, 4 to 5 feet per color.
All right, here's one from Glenn. Glenn's looks like he set it up to Wilson this spring. Said he's going to set up one rod with 3 colors and wants to know if he should go with 5, 6, or 7 color on the other rod.
3 color might not be very useful in the beginning unless, again, you're going to have some weights where you can drop that presentation down. In Wilson, unless you're fishing for cohos, a lot of our kings are going to be usually deeper than a 3-core range. I would say a minimum of 5-core, 7-core, and 10-core in the spring. 3-core might be a little light, but again, if you're going to target, fish in general, you're going to poke steelhead up there. You're going to poke the occasional king up there, especially in the morning, and you're going to poke some cohos up there too. But most of the guys in Wilson usually start with a 5, and they'll have 5, 7s, and 10s.
All right, this one here, you've already answered kind of half of this question, but I'll give you the second half, or the first half. Is Stealth Core sold exclusively at Fish USA?
It's sold exclusively at Fish USA in the States, and it's also sold at Grimsby Tackle in Ontario.
All right, Trevor, what do you got?
I like the quite a few questions on backing material, and let's see, where can I pick out a specific one? There's Gordy over on Facebook. What do you use for backer on your salmon Stealth Core setups?
I like to use monofilament line if my reels have the capacity. If my reels don't have the capacity, I'll use 50-pound Power Pro or a Super Braid. But I prefer mono if my reels have enough capacity. It's easier to deal with. It clips on planer board releases or rubber band releases way easier than super braid. It's easier to deal with. It's easier to tie knots. So that is my number one preference. In situations where my reels won't have the capacity to hold a lot of backing for mono, I'll clip on, I'll add about 120 foot segment of 20 or 25 pound mono. And then I'll go into the super braid backing for, because it's less diameter and I could put more capacity on my reels. But I always like clipping on the mono. So I find a way to get a segment of mono versus attaching to a super line for sure.
And I'll ask kind of an additional one just for my own knowledge. So what pound mono are you using, and how often do you go in and change it? Because I'll raise my hand as being the guy that doesn't want to pull off that much mono every year, because
I use 20 pound mono backing on Lake Erie when we're walleye and steelhead fishing. That's plenty. It gives you a little more capacity on your reels because you're not using a bulky line. Lake Ontario, I'll go to 25 pound mono, but not any heavier.
And how often do you change that out?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Okay. So I get a reprieve. I can go every 2 years.
Most of that line is somewhat protected. It doesn't see the UV a lot.
It's not the cost of it. It's just that's a lot of cranking, man. So
it is a lot.
All right. We got one from YouTube here, and he'd like to know how long is your leader between the core and the lure? You use mono or fluoro in the leader?
Good question. I use 25 to 30 feet, no more than 30 feet. And it'll be fluorocarbon, or I will use 20 feet of regular mono, like 20 pound clear, and I'll put a barrel swivel and a section of whatever leader I might be wanting to use. If I'm fishing flashers, I have the ability to tie on a 25 pound piece of fluoro on that section. If I'm downsizing and I'm fishing spoons up high, I can still take that inline barrel and put about a 10 or 12 foot piece of 16 pound fluoro and still have another section of 20 pound mono before I get to the leader. When we go all out fishing, when I know we're not going to be switching leaders or leadering down or leadering up, we'll generally, cut a piece of fluorocarbon from the snap swivel all the way to the mono. Just go use all fluorocarbon. But there's always a piece of fluorocarbon on the business end.
All right. Here's one from Aaron on Facebook, and Aaron wants to know what's your favorite knot for your leader off your Leadcore?
That would be the VQ knot, Vision Quest knot. It can tie. Most guys can do it within 30 seconds. It's an easy knot. Again, that knot is on my YouTube page. There's a couple videos on that knot. Once you do it a few times, you could do that knot under 30 seconds. It's quick, easy, and it's really never failed me. A lot of guys use it now. But it's called
from YouTube
or very quick knot.
This one's from YouTube. It's Brad. He'd like to know if you're running high-speed reels with your Leadcore. He hears that a traditional 4-to-1 speed may be better.
Well, the bigger the reels or the more Leadcore you have out, it's always good to have high-speed reels. The more cranking you're going to do. So the higher speed reels that you can get, the better you are, for sure.
All right. My favorite part of these shows is when captains chime in and they have something smart, alecky to say. Captain Jackie wants to know if Colton is paying his fair share in gas yet.
Not yet. But Rick, you did a great job with your electronics presentation. You're getting gray, though. You've gotten gray.
Aren't we all?
Yes, sir.
All right, we heard from Brad on the reels. Steve would like to know what's your favorite rod? What are your Leadcore rods?
I use on my walleye rods. I'll use a 7-foot Shimano medium light. The big guy rods up in Lake Ontario, I use the Teloras again, but the bigger Teloras that are designed for copper / Leadcore. When I'm using like 10 cores, when I'm downsizing, brown trout fishing again, we'll use those 7-foot medium lights on Lake Ontario as well. But Kings, we like the Telora, the heavier duty copper / Leadcore rods.
All right. Looks like Donnie over on Facebook. Donnie asks, after all your colors out, how much backing do you let out to get the maximum motion in your lure?
That's a good question. We typically don't let more than 100 feet out, especially if we're fishing them off side planer boards, the big boards. But typically 100 feet, I think, gets you the maximum depth out of your lead cores. If we're trying to get those lead cores, say if I'm using a 10 cord, I'm trying to get that in the upper 40s or upper 30s, I should say, we would choke that up and maybe tie it or connect it right to the knot, the connection between the backing and the lead core, to get that thing a little more in the upper water column. But typically, if we're trying to achieve the max, we're going to dump a good 100 foot of backing into the drink.
All right, here's one from Facebook. Trevor's got this one.
Jim Mass, what do you calculate for depth when you add the snap weights to your leg core?
I've been running
maximum there, I think. Yeah.
I've been running weight on the front end of presentations for probably 25 years. And a good rule of thumb is going to be about 4 feet per ounce. Again, that's putting that weight on the front end of your presentation, not on the back end. But about 4 foot per ounce is what you're going to add of depth.
And what speed would you say that's at, Pete? I mean, you calculate speed into that too, or?
Yeah, that's a good question, Trevor. I'm going to say that's your average trolling speed, your spoon speed. If you're a one guy and you're going to pull harnesses, you're going to get more than 4 foot per ounce. But if you're, at 2.2 to 2.5, 2.6, figure 4 foot per ounce.
Gotcha.
We keep a close eye on you, Pete. We got some spies over there making sure that we know what you're doing. Looks like you've been putting a lot of videos up on YouTube, over on your YouTube channel. What's going on there?
Really, just it's kind of fun. It's that I got a lot of energy, especially this time of year. We're not fishing. We got other things going on, and I've got 17,000 photos and videos on my iPhone, and thought it was a really good way to take a lot of that stuff and put it into 1.5 to 4 minute videos and post those. That really will help a lot of anglers. It's showing you what I do on the back of my boat, what I believe in, what I've been successful for. So it's really a tool for people to take advantage of. If they pick a couple tips up from watching those, great. If you think it's malarkey, that's great too. But really, it's just to share 30 some years of trolling experience on Lake Erie and Lake Ontario and put it out there.
I know I learned more than a little on a couple days on Pete's boat.
So I would like to bring up one thing. I know the clock's ticking here. The big advantage, I think, of Stealth Core for me, it's not your traditional morning program. Where fish are biting, the sun's not up, fish are in a biting mood. You sloppy guys can catch fish. We all catch a lot of fish during the low light periods, whether it's evening or mornings. But where I think the Stealth Core really shines, and I know I've fished side by side with guys over the years, whether it's Lake Ontario or Lake Erie for walleyes, guys who are running traditional lead core, and we're running a totally different lead core, low vis presentation, and we beat them every time, pretty much every time, side by side. And under these conditions, though, when we're having these tough high sun, midday, the bite's gotten tough. It's a grind. The light penetration is going, through the water, affecting your baits, illuminating these high vis lead cores, and you got your bait, 30 feet behind it, and you're running multiple lines per side. Advantage lead core for sure. We've seen it. There's a lot of really good tournament anglers. Tom Allen from Atomic runs it. Primetime Pete from up at the East End. Rich Ajecki, a firm believer in lead core. So, again, that's where it really shines. Some guys might say it doesn't make a difference. Guys have the same argument for fluorocarbon lines, right? We don't need them. They're great, but you fish enough in tough conditions compared to other guys doing the opposite. And you kind of know what works and what doesn't work. Again, so this product has proven itself. I've proven it side by side with other guys. I'm a firm believer in it. Again, morning conditions where, the fish are biting, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of things don't matter when fish are sloppy and the bite's good, but it's that I need to grind out 2 or 3 more fish to get my box or for a tournament. And I feel way more confident having, a low vis presentation like my lead core in the water versus, a guy pulling a higher vis, multiple line presentation in the same water I'm fishing.
Awesome. Great stuff, Captain Pete, Alex. Appreciate you coming on and joining us tonight, taking the time out. Always good to talk to you and always good to get some information from you.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
All right. That was Captain Pete Alex from Vision Quest Sport Fishing. And we got another guy coming on, another headliner, and he is Lance Valentine. Lance, how's it going? Let's get rid of Pete. We're going to remove him. There he goes. All right. So it's us and Lance.
Yeah. There you go.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great tonight. Good to see you guys. We're getting some ice off really well here in Michigan. So it's not going to be too long. We're going to be on. I know guys are on Lake Erie today in boats catching some fish. So it looks like springtime's going to be a little early here for us. Looking forward to that.
Spring.
What does that do to you, Lance, when you go online and you see other people out catching fish and you're not? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel terrible because we schedule our January, February, March with seminars and shows, and we kind of assume that we're not going to get a chance to fish until the first part of April. So we're booked up right up until, actually I have a seminar on the 6th of April. Is my last appearance, and I'll start guiding on the 9th. So these early springs actually drive me crazy because we've got work to do before we get a chance to go fishing. So, it is what it is. It's great to see the guys get out and get excited about fishing, but old Captain Lance has to work until at least the end of March. So then we get a chance to finally go fishing.
Well, I've been watching you on Facebook, like I told Coach or Captain Alex. I spy on everybody out there, and I've been spying on you. And it looks like you've got some new stuff going on with teaching fishing. Tell us about what's changing over there.
We are really humping. Brand new website just kicked off about 3 weeks ago at teachingfishing.com. Completely redesigned from the ground up. The guys that did a great job with it. Our YouTube page is kicking off. We're doing a lot more live stuff. We just did a Detroit River workshop. 5 hours of hardcore information on fishing the Detroit River. That's available for streaming. We're converting some of our old DVD products into live streaming that guys can now download through the new website. Lots of stuff going on. I've never been this busy because I've always, been on the road doing seminars and shows, but with the lack of being able to really do that, we've had to kind of come in the studio and do a lot of it. And the timing is different. The timing I used to, at 4:00 on a Wednesday, I'd have a seminar at 7. I go, I got to build a seminar, and I'd build a seminar from 4 to 5 and go to the seminar and away you go. Well, when you do video productions, you guys know, you got to have something ready 3-4 weeks out so you can get all the lower thirds and you can get the lighting fixed. You can tweak this and tweak that to have a good product. So the timing's a little bit weird for me, getting adjusted to that, but really excited about what we're doing. We're getting a lot of our video out there, some of our older stuff, some of the stuff that was just available as we did it. So our website is full of stuff. Love guys, go to teachingfishing.com, click on the public lounge, all kinds of stuff there to see. Really excited about what we got going here and where we're going to go this year.
All right. The question of the segment for Pete Alex was Mike Barna over on YouTube. Mike, go ahead and send us an email or a message on Facebook with your address. And if you guys have any questions for Captain Lance Valentine, go ahead and get them in the comments, and we will get them to him. And one thing that I discovered that you guys have, and obviously I was late to the game on this because you've already got thousands of people in there, but you've got a really cool Facebook group. Tell us about that Facebook.
Yeah, so the Teaching Fishing Educational Forum it's our way to communicate with guys. We were getting emails and getting phone calls. You just, at some point you got to stop all that. So we started the Teaching Fishing Educational Forum on Facebook, and it's a forum that you have to ask to be on it. We kind of control who's on there, just so if there is a problem, we can kind of take care of that. How Facebook can get sometimes, but it's really cool because it allows people to interact, to ask us a question. They can initiate the post, and then one of our crew, myself or one of the Teaching Fishing gang, answers, and everybody else that's on the Facebook page chimes in too. So a lot of these questions become long drawn out discussions that go, layers and layers deep on it. Well, it looks like a simple question becomes multiple answers, layers deep. So it's really cool to to not only interact with the person asking the question, but watching everybody else kind of interact with them also. So that's been a lot of fun to actually kind of be a facilitator of some really, really good fishing discussion and questions.
Yeah, I see a lot of question and answer on Facebook groups, and a lot of those answers aren't right. What do you do when someone chimes in and they kind of give you something that's not the right answer?
Well, again, that myself and the Teaching Fishing crew, we kind of watch all of that. So if something gets too far off the rails, we kind of slide in there and go, okay, let's kind of back up a little bit and answer. And again, one of the things we are working on is making sure that every question we get, we have either a written blog that really answers it and explains it, and or a short video clip. So that's kind of on our list this year to get done, is these little video clips and these 4 or 5 paragraph blogs that actually explain a lot of these questions. So that's what I've been doing. Is we see a question once or twice, or see a lot of people asking or getting involved in a certain question, I'll sit down, write a blog, come in studio here real quick, do a little 2-minute video. So now if that comes up again, we can kind of send them to read the blog and or go watch the video. And that kind of explains how we do it and why we do it that way. And then we let everybody else kind of, everybody else chimes in and has their little take on it also. But we kind of control what we think the right answer is. And something that I'm really proud of at Teaching Fishing is we explain why we think that's the right answer. So I'm not just going to tell you what we think. We're going to tell you why we think that way, and kind of how it, how it all works, and why we think what the right answer is, why we think that's the right answer.
All right, starting to get a few questions, but if you guys have questions for Captain Lance Valentine, put them in there. Captain Lance, you do a lot of fishing on the Detroit River, and Roy would like to know how you feel the Detroit River will fish this year compared to last year.
Oh boy, I wish I had a crystal ball that could tell me that. A lot of it's going to depend on. I don't make decisions about how I think Detroit River year is going to go until about March 20th, 25th, because by then we kind of know where the ice melt is. Where the water clarity is, we kind of know what's going to happen. You try to guess too early, and the next thing you know, you have 12 inches of snow the third week of March, and then you got extra runoff. So usually about 25th of March, I kind of decide. The big thing for us last year, and what's I think going to be the big deciding factor this year, is can we go to Canada? Because we couldn't go last year, and the American side is traditionally cleaner than the Canadian side. Last year, it was cleaner than it's ever been. So we had to adjust our presentation quite a bit last year. Traditionally, Detroit River is big jigs, 3/4, 1 ounce jigs, plastics, usually darker colored plastics. That didn't work last year in that clear water. We went to smaller, lighter jigs, all the way to sometimes down to 1/2 ounce. We shortened up our baits. We went to baits that we could actually see through, that were clear plastic bodies, as opposed to some of the darker colors that we traditionally fish. And we actually kept our jigs off the bottom 3-4 feet, and actually kind of jig trolled them downstream. Casting was also really good last year. So I don't know. Here's what I do know. I know it's going to be different. It's going to be what it is. I do know that this year I am prepared that if it is clear and it's not normal vertical jigging with heavy jigs, I know this year I'm much more prepared than I was last year. Because last year it took me about 2.5 weeks to figure it out. And then it was just kind of, then we went on and had a great year. But those first 2.5, 3 weeks were frustrating. But this year I know that if we are faced with that clear water, we know how to adjust, to make those adjustments, and can get on fish a whole lot earlier this year. So, we'll know. I'll get down there the first part of April. We'll kind of see what the water looks like, and we'll go from there, make some good decisions. Actually, that's not true. I'll make some bad decisions, be in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing, and then we'll kind of take that and kind of turn it into the right thing. So one thing we do though is every night on my Facebook page, Lance Valentine Sport Fishing, my guide page, I post a video fishing report every day from the Detroit River, every day from Saginaw Bay. So if guys want to know, they can go to Lance Valentine Sport Fishing. I post a video report every day, good or bad. So you can kind of know what I did, where I fish, and kind of either do what I did that was good, or don't do what I did if it was bad.
Seeing some good testimonials for you there. Ron says he's a new member over at Teaching Fishing, and incredible resource. And those are, I know that whether it's us selling a product or you putting information out there, I know that those are always things that mean a lot to you. So nice to get that support from the people using your stuff. But here's a great one from I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyways because I know other people want to know it too. And that's when trolling, do you prefer a fast or slow approach?
I
want to go fast.
I want to go fast.
I am a fast troller. My beginning trolling speed, even in cold water, and I'm talking water in the fall time. I don't get to do a lot of spring trolling because I'm on Detroit, but my fall trolling goes into December, 37, 38, 39 degrees. I start at about 2.4, 2.5. That's kind of where I start. And if I'm going over fish and I see there's fish on the screen and I have my lures in a position that they should be getting bit and I don't, then I'll start to adjust. But I look at it, why not go 2.5 if you can catch them? Why go 1.5 if you can catch them at 2.5? I'm covering more water. I'm putting my lure in front of more stupid fish. And here's the thing. Here's where guys, I think, sometimes stop. They go, oh, walleyes aren't moving very fast. If you're a shad and it's 39 degrees, or if you're a shad and it's 80 degrees and there's a walleye on your rear end, you're swimming as fast as you can. It doesn't matter how cold the water is. You are swimming as fast as you can to get away from all those teeth. So I think sometimes, even with non-aggressive fish in cold water, speed is actually a trigger because a bait moving very fast looks like a bait fish that is scared and trying to get away. And sometimes walleyes will attack that bait, even when they're not hungry, even when they're in a negative mode, because it's something trying to get away. You take a crankbait and it just kind of wiggles through, and a walleye may go, I don't really care, right? But I think speed, even in cold water, non-aggressive fish, I think that is an absolute trigger some days. So I start, even in cold water, 2.4, 2.5. As I catch fish, I keep moving faster, about 0.2 miles an hour every time I catch a fish. And at some point, the fish go no, and that's where we kind of stay. We caught a lot of fish last winter, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6. When we were passing guys going past, we'd go back 4 times, and they're still going in the same line, going the one way. So I like to fish fast. I like to find a lot of stupid fish. And give them a chance to bite as opposed to going slow over smart. I can't catch smart fish. That's why I quit tournament fishing. So I need to find dumb ones. And the faster I go, the better chance I got of finding some stupid fish that wants to bite.
We just got this one that just came up. It's from Kim, and Kim says, and hopefully faster equals less sheephead.
Actually, it does. The faster you go, the less sheephead, the less white bass you catch. So that's definitely something that we see. The trash fish go away the faster you go.
All right, here's one from Jeff McDonald. He'd like to know, what size weight jig do you prefer for the Detroit River?
Whatever you need to feel the bottom and whatever you need to be able to feel something different on the jig. Remember, when you're jig fishing, that jig's basically just going straight up and down, right? So all a fish is going to do is stop it from dropping, or he's going to kind of suck it up and you're going to feel a little pressure when you lift it. So I teach it this way. The easier it is to feel your jig, the easier it is to feel something different on your jig. So if you're fishing a light jig, you may be barely hitting bottom. You may be having some strikes, but if you're trying to feel the bottom, you're not sure it's the bottom. A lot of those very subtle strikes you're not going to feel. So I like a heavy jig. I start 3/4 ounce for myself. My customers fish a 1 ounce. Again, there are some conditions that I adjust, but for vertical jig fishing, even in the Saginaw River, where we have very, very little flow and a lot of the fishing is 7 to 11 feet of water, I fish a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce jig all the time. I think there's something, just like trolling fast, I think there's something about that big jig banging on the bottom. Fish can hear it, fish can see it, fish can feel it. I think that's a big deal. So again, I start with big jigs, let the fish tell me they don't want it, and then kind of back off. But very rarely on a river situation do I fish anything lighter than 3/4 ounce.
We'll keep you bouncing back and forth between jigging and trolling here.
Sure.
And I grab this question every time I see it because it gets asked a lot, and that's is there a forward? This is Brian over on YouTube. Is there an application for forward looking sonar trolling for walleyes?
There is. This is going to be the first year I'm going to have active target, so forward looking sonar. Yes, the people I talk to they're using it for trolling. There definitely is an application for it. Now, saying that, would I spend my money on forward-looking sonar if I did a lot of trolling? Yes, but only after I had good quality side scan and down scan. I think side scan is much more important than forward-looking sonar when you're trolling. We can see some things on forward-looking sonar, maybe fish kind of sliding out of the way, and that there are fish ahead of us. But I use my side scan so much more every single year. Again, active target and forward-looking sonar is awesome. But if you're a troller, if that's what you do, make sure you've got a really good cone angle on your regular sonar. I know Rich was talking about that B60, B66, TM165s, a good transducer that has a wider cone and gets you a really good two-dimensional picture, and then learn how to use your side scan specifically first, and then worry about forward-looking sonar. Forward-looking sonar, I'm going to tell you, unless you are 100% dialed in, it's not going to help you catch a lot more fish. Side scan and a wider cone, two-dimensional transducer absolutely will help you see more and catch more fish.
All right, Captain Ryan Sharp joins the show tonight, and he'd like to know what's your favorite scent for walleyes and how often you replace the bottle for spoilage.
So I go through a lot of scent. Great question, Ryan. I go through a lot of scent. I'm a Procure guy. My rule of thumb is this: if I'm close to the bottom, if I'm jig fishing or fishing close to the bottom, it's garlic nightcrawler or it's their Pro Walleye scent. It's one of those two. If I'm fishing in the middle of the water column, I try to match my scent to the bait fish I think the fish are feeding on. I go through 6-8 bottles, 10 bottles a year of Emerald Shiner, go through a lot of Gizzard Shad. Some places I fish, I'll go through some smelt, but Emerald Shiner and the Gizzard Shad are my two favorite. But if I'm off the bottom, I like to imitate what I think the fish are feeding on. I like that scent to be the same. If I'm close to the bottom, can't beat garlic nightcrawler or just a Pro Walleye. It has a little bit of everything in it. Garlic nightcrawler is my favorite if I'm fishing on the bottom.
All right, Lance, kind of winding down here. Here's one from Steve. Steve wants to know if you troll crawlers, and if so, what speed?
The answer is no. It's kind of hard to keep a crawler hanging on at 3 miles an hour. So I don't think I've had a crawler in my boat in probably a dozen years now. Again, I just think it's too slow. There are fish biting somewhere, right? And I think, look, here's my analogy, right? Imagine it's 6 o'clock, 6:30 Thanksgiving night, right? If you live here in Michigan, you've watched the Lions lose. That's a tradition, Thanksgiving tradition we have to go through. But you're sitting on the couch, right? You got your pants on buttoned. You're just sitting there with the family, and somebody comes by and says, "You want another piece of Aunt Millie's pumpkin pie?" You're like, "I cannot eat another thing," right? I don't. Well, all of a sudden, your 10-year-old nephew comes around the corner and throws a football at your face, right? What do? Boom. You instantly just react out of reaction. I think that's what fish do. When fish are on the bottom, they're usually neutral or negative. They don't want to bite. And sometimes even a little night crawler going past them, right? Just nice and slow. They don't want it. They don't care. Now here comes a crankbait with a big rattle, make a lot of noise, make a lot of sound. They feel it. It comes by them. It looks like it's trying to get away. Pop. They come up and they bite it. Sometimes just out of aggravation. Sometimes to see what it is. Sometimes to get it so the other fish that they're hanging out with don't get it. I don't think crawler fishing is an efficient way to fish. And we've proven, if you go back over the last 15 years of tournament fishing, more tournaments in the last 15 years, and I mean major walleye tournaments, more money has been won on plastic baits, crankbaits, and it's $10, $12 to every one that's won on live bait presentation. So if you've only got a little bit of time to fish, why not put some crankbaits on, some spoons on, go fast, look for those stupid fish, stop trying to catch fish that don't want to bite. So I'm definitely not a crawler guy.
All right, Lance, really appreciate your time tonight. If people want to find out more about you and what you got going on, where should they go?
Teachingfishing.com is where to start. They can join us every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Teaching Fishing Educational Forum. We've got what we call Coffee Hour Plus, a little bit of education, a little bit of just sitting and chatting. That's live on our Facebook page. But teachingfishing.com is the place to go. And there's a contact us button there. If they want to send us an email, we're always available for any kind of questions. Whatever we can do to help you guys catch more fish, we are always here to do it. That's what we do. That's what we live on. Every morning we get up, hoping we can help you guys catch more fish.
All right, Lance, really appreciate coming on tonight. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, thanks, guys. Good seeing you.
Thanks, Lance.
All right, that was Captain Lance Valentine from Teaching Fishing, and really a good resource if you're looking to learn some more about fishing and just get better from what you're doing. Now we've got another guy coming on, and this is a guy we had on the podcast not too long ago, It was a great episode. He is a wonderful, wonderful guy with a lot of good information. He is Captain Bob Hines, and Captain Bob Hines runs a charter service out of Traverse City, Michigan. It is Central Coast Angling. Captain Bob, how you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing, Chris? Hey, Trevor.
Good to see you.
You guys staying warm over there?
Yeah, it's kind of like spring.
Yeah.
I mean, there's water
Warmer than me
running.
today.
Yeah,
I can tell it's cold out on that lake.
yeah, it is, and there's plenty of snow yet. So
You know, Rick, he was in his boat, and I was sitting there watching him. I'm like, man, I was in my boat today working, and I thought about sitting in my boat, but after a day of work, I was like, I'm just going to go home where it's warm.
Well, we wanted to have you on today to talk about Garmin. And I think we're going to talk a lot of things Garmin, but one of the things that we've seen and we've heard, we talked to Captain Dan Keating last night. He said there's a lot of new anglers that maybe have always been on inland lakes thinking about getting out in the big water. What does Garmin have for that's kind of, I guess, more budget friendly for those type of folks?
So Garmin is just a awesome, incredible line. I just actually switched over the Garmin's. I'm almost a full season in with it. I've always been a kind of a techie guy. So because I'm a techie guy, I came from Humminbird Solixes, just like Rick mentioned there. So I jumped right into their top of the line units, the 8600s. By no means do nobody has to grab those units. You can jump on with a good introductory unit would be the Ultramat, the UHD series. Those, they start in 6 inches and they stop at 9. They're great starter units. You can pick them up anywhere from $600 to, right up to about $800. Bass Pro Cabela's has them on sale. Often they'll run a $200 code. You can get those get into those fairly cheap. They are coming with a really good quality transducer, side imaging, 2D. Now Garmin, they don't call it side imaging. It is side imaging. They're down imaging. They're calling clear view. So you can get into those. They're great products, and the beautiful part is most of them will handle the Panoptics and the Garmin Live Scope. Everybody loves the Live Scope, so it's getting popular quick.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, about Great Lakes fishing with Panoptics and with Live Scope. How does that work? And I guess the big question, I think a lot of people, they think Panoptics is Live Scope. So what are the differences between Panoptics and Live Scope?
Yeah, let's start with Panoptics. That's been around the longest. It's getting popular, definitely on the Great Lakes. I know you have Casey Prisco on tonight. He kind of sparked my interest after he did his first podcast with the Great Lakes podcast there with you guys. I kind of listened to that and I'm like, okay. So I caught on that. What a lot of us are doing here in the Great Lakes, the trolling guys, is we're picking up PS30 transducers. Some guys are still running the PS22s. The PS30 transducer is a down-looking transducer. It has a 120 degree by 90 degree cone. I know that Mark just put a video out, and he's talking about turning it sideways and putting it on a Rytech Marine PS31 mount, and he's using it to look forward. This is completely optional. What it's allowing you to do with Panoptics is it's not giving you live imaging, the PS30 transducer, but it is allowing you to monitor your riggers. And if you do not look forward, if you just use a standard 120 by the 90, on the good days, you should be seeing your low divers too. Now, that is Panoptics. Now we're talking about live sonar. Let's switch over that. That is giving you a live image, 120 degrees by 20 degrees. And everybody's got this, this technology is new. It's been out for about 4 years now. The Live Scope has with Garmin. They're definitely leading the pack. Lowrance is right behind. Lowrance's quality is good. We just had some updates with Garmin, and they're obviously going to, they're just up to the LVS 34. I don't have that yet. I plan to have in about 3 weeks. So, yeah, the technology is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is kind of a bit of an arms race, between, nobody builds a bad product anymore. We all know that. I think what we're seeing, because we just get a lot of questions. Even we see it on the fish hawk side, but I think as the technology develops, we're going to find more and more application. Guys like Bob out there are actually fishing it every day. you're going to kind of lead the charge for the rest of us, I think. So
Yeah, absolutely. I use my live scope. I've used it for deep water trolling. Right now, my plan for 2022 season is I'm going to use my live scope, and I'm just going to use it to look at the boat because, I kind of want to adjust using the PS30 that I'm using. I want to see how the fish are reacting, what the kings and the coho are doing, on my short lines close to the boat, and then just use the live scope to look at the boat and kind of monitor, where are the fish actually sitting in the column. But yeah, just like you said, Trevor, it's iPhone. I mean, we're getting updates. We're getting new iPhones. We're getting new Samsungs. Everybody's technology is great. And honestly, if you're running Lowrance right now, get an active target. They're great. I mean, everybody's technology is phenomenal. It's only getting better, and we're at the very beginning stages of this.
All right. The last segment, Captain Lance Valentine, Brian Nichols is the winner for question of the segment. If you got a question for Captain Bob Hines, go ahead and put that in there, and hopefully we'll get to that pretty soon. We'll start with Curtis over on YouTube, and Curtis would like to know, and you touched on this a little bit, but he'd like to know, is it better to run the PS30 Panoptix transducer the standard way or install it sideways? What would be the advantages and disadvantages to those installations?
All right, Curtis. The first thing you're asking this question, this is right the nuts and bolts of the PS30. It comes down to you and your application. What do you want to see? You're going to see your riggers if you're running it sideways. Sideways meaning your 120-degree cone is looking forward and aft. So you're going to see the fish in front of your boat. You're going to see the fish behind your boat. What you're not going to see is you're not going to see much to the side of your boat. So if you want to see, out front, see the fish coming into your spread, run it sideways. If you want to see more action, reaction on your spread, you got to run it the standard way.
All right. Here's another one here. We'll get to this. And this one's Rob. And this one's really going to get into the techie stuff here. He says, you're a techie guy. You might be able to help. Is there an easy way to connect the Garmin Echo Map UHD to a Mercury outboard without using the NMEA 2000 backbone?
No. You got to use a NEMA. I'm not a Mercury guy, but I know that you need a NEMA.
Yeah, that's the talking point. So you need that NEMA.
Yeah. NEMA's
all right, Bob.
Yep.
Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about kind of the area you fish and how you use your equipment to fish that area and how you're using that to put more fish in your boat.
Okay, so right now, like I said, I jumped in with the Garmin 8612, and then I also jumped in, which is a touchscreen unit, and then I jumped in with a 1242 XSV. This unit is a tabbed unit, so in rough conditions, I can obviously use my hotkeys. There are no hotkeys on the 86 series. I'm using live scope every single day right now. I'm fishing perch. We kicked our season off actually yesterday on the first day, the third. I'm losing track already. I'm only 2 or 3 days in. Anyway, so from what I've understood is I'm kind of cutting the way on deep water live scope usage. And when I say deep water, the deepest I've used it so far is about 130 feet. I'm seeing my jigs down to about 80 feet, vertically. So when I'm looking for my schools of perch, right now we're in perch season, I'm looking out about 175 to 200 feet. And a given day, I'm in about 80 feet of water. I'm just looking for pods of fish. We were in an area today I was kind of scouting out, and I had to do about 3 miles of shoreline. I haven't fished that area but 2 times over the last few years. Within an hour, I was in a school perch, and we were just whipping on perch. So, to have the ability to broaden what you're looking with just, looking out 175 feet versus your traditional 2D sonar. I mean, I'm covering massive amounts of deep water. And that's just for perch. I'm using it for targeting Cisco. I'm using it for targeting vertical jigging coho. I'm not much of a walleye angler because I live in northern Michigan. If I did have a good walleye fishery up here in northern Michigan, like Erie, Saginaw, I'll probably be pretty hard on the walleye. But I'm pretty hard on the perch, pretty hard on the kings. I don't use it much for the kings. I'm using Panoptix, the Panoptix, the PS30. So day in, day out, I'm using my live scope right now. That's about 6 months of the year.
Trevor, do you got anything else for Mr. Bob?
No, I'm looking for questions here. We're doing a good job of answering a lot of those. Like I say, I think that my impression of this technology is we kind of don't know what we don't know yet. I mean,
We really don't. We really don't.
I think we're really, obviously kind of coming from an electronics background. It's fascinating stuff, and it's exciting. And I think in the next 24 months, we're going to have a lot more of these questions and generate a lot of new ones too.
So, Trevor, something I do want to say about Panoptics is it's been incredibly expensive to get into. Just Panoptics alone, I think you're looking at $1,500 just for the black box, the GLS 10, and the LVS 32. That's just the live scope transducer and the black box to run it. Then you have a unit. So, a good price point is about $2,000. That's incredibly expensive. Luckily, Garmin just dropped the LVS 34. So what's going to happen is a bunch of these LVS 32s and black boxes they're going to hit the market. It's like the brand new iPhone. There's a lot of people out there. I'm one of them. I've got to have brand new technology all the time. So I'm already looking at, my LVS 32, my live scope, my current one, I want to update. So many of these guys are out there. It's going to get incredibly cost efficient to get into these units. So if you're thinking about getting into it, just hold on a couple more weeks, guys. I'm already starting to see guys sell their units and their black boxes for like 600, 800, 500. So at some point, this is going to become spot lock. This is going to become the standard on the lake, I think. So if anybody out there is, they're just holding tight for, a breaking point, it's kind of tough to explain to your wife that you just dumped $2,000 on live scope. So just hold on, guys.
We talked about that last night on how how we can, we're going to maximize our time. I thought I came up with something pretty good.
Yeah, he went with, if we catch more fish when we go out there, we don't have to fish as much.
Right. It's truth. I mean, for me, time is money. I'm sitting here running a charter, and people are paying me to get them on fish. If I can see those fish out there, I mean, that saves 30, 45 minutes of looking. That means, we're done quicker. Get in and get out. So, yeah, it's definitely going to become the standard. We're just, we're only 4 years in with Garmin, and Humminbird and Lowrance just jumped on this year. I know a lot of the guys like Lance there before me, he said that he was just starting to play around with his active target. So a lot of guys are just getting active target. I can't wait to see. I'm excited to see where we're at 5 years from now.
Yeah, that's something, and I'm kind of into the fishing or the ice fishing thing. And in ice fishing, everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what live scope is. Everybody knows how it works. The only barrier is that price, which you just talked about. What do you think it's going to take before people start to figure out what live active sonar does in open water fishing? Because in ice fishing, everybody can see the advantage. They see how it works, and they're all in.
I think a big one right now, like I mentioned, depth. So right now, I can tell you I've used it on salmon, on my king setup, on my Great Lakes setup. I've watched kings literally climb out of 90 feet and eat my slider 45 feet down. I mean, I've literally watched these fish just disappear and hear the rod start screaming. I think what it's going to take is better target separation, a stronger signal. We're going to have to be able to see better. And then also, experience. There's not a lot of guys. I mean, I know of 2 guys that have used it trolling up here by me, and I'm one of them. So I just don't think live sonar is quite there. We're going to have some time with it.
All right. We started a few questions here. Here's one from Kyle over on Facebook. And Kyle says, he's actually got a couple questions. One was, do you need different or multiple transducers to run Panoptics and live scope? And his other one was pros and cons of the 86 series versus the 1243 XSV.
All right, Kyle. So let's start with your transducer question. LVS 32 just got replaced with LVS 34. That's your live scope. Panoptics, PS22, PS30, PS31. Those are your basics. Your PS31 is forward looking. PS30 is down looking. PS22 is forward looking. So those are your basic 3 principles, and then obviously your live scope. The 8600 series versus the 1243, they're both touch screen. They're almost identical units. I actually wanted to add a third one. I thought I was ordering another 8600. Wrong unit, had to take it back. Anyway, so the big one is definitely clarity resolution. The pixels on the 8600 series is just it's phenomenal. I mean, it's literally in the technology and what I've seen coming. I know there's some stuff coming, and from what I've seen, it's only going to get better. But and then obviously a big one's price point too. So.
All right, here's a question that I see a lot in the ice fishing world, and like you said, I don't think this has really come to the party yet when it comes to open water fishing. But William says this is definitely more efficient. How do you think it will affect fish populations and limits going forward?
I think that's going to have something we're going to have to leave up to the fishing community. I think we're going to have to really be responsible. It's definitely, for me, it's made my job a lot easier as far as finding fish. At the same time, I'm putting rods in people's hands, and you still have to catch the fish. So I know I've got a lot of buddies out there that have it, and they're not out there day in, day out. They're seeing the fish. Also, it's a computer system. You have to be proficient with it. You have to be able to use it. So to use it as maximum capacity and actually do harm on the fishery, I don't think we have to worry about that quite yet, but we do need to keep that in our minds.
I actually just saw a study that the state of Arkansas did, and that was the very question is they were measuring the effect of these type of technologies on the crappie fishery.
Yes.
And their study was very interesting because they found that while those anglers using this technology caught more fish, those were also the same anglers that weren't keeping as many fish.
Yes.
So to your point, Bob, it depends. We have the choice of what we're doing with those fish, and it's going to be I think it's going to be up to the anglers to use some discretion here.
And there are days it's nothing more than it was completely a scouting tool for me today. I didn't need to go out and kill a ton of fish. I didn't need to go catch a ton of fish. I just need to know that they are there and get out. So.
All right, Ryan's got a question. I like this one. This is kind of a question that I ask a lot. So if you could just pick one type of sonar, what would it be? Live, 2D, side, down? What would it be, and why for an open water angler?
That's a great question, Ryan. So I will tell you that I'm at the point, depending on what we're doing, if we're bass fishing, walleye fishing, perch fishing, bluegill fishing, anything but king fishing, any kind of deep water trolling, I won't get on your boat unless you have a live scope or any type of live sonar. I want it. I want to see it. I want to know they're there. Now, so having said that, I would say that I'm 60%, rod in hand kind of a guy. So I want I want a live sonar, but if I'm trolling, I want down sonar.
All right. Good question there. J-Mills asked this question for a couple different guys. I haven't brought it up, so we're going to do it now. He asks, what do you look for scouting during open water to use during ice fishing season? What are you looking for when you're out there in the open water before ice season?
So this is a great question. You're probably asking the wrong guy. I don't ice fish, believe it or not. I live in northern Michigan, Traverse City, and I've been ice fishing one time this winter, and I've been in my boat 4 times. Definitely fished all 12 months, but I will tell you I'm a huge perch guy, and what I'm looking for when I target jumbo big perch is deep water flats. So I'm looking, in that December time, I'm looking for where those weeds are. If I know that my fish are holding in 45, 50 feet of water, kind of, before winter, I'm looking for that 70 to 80 break line, that flat close to there. So, and that's where those fish are going to be.
All right, Bob, we're wrapping up here. Just about 45 seconds left. Is there something you wanted to talk about that we didn't ask you about?
Not really. If anything, if you're looking to get into this game, advance your game with technology. It's huge. It's frustrating. Go to your Cabela's, go to your Bass Pro, go to your West Marine, and find a unit that is good for you and ask questions. Facebook there's a ton of pages out there, a ton of information. I'm probably part of 6 different Garmin groups, and I still ask questions, and I still learn from guys they've been doing this for years. Ask questions, figure out what's good for you before you spend a ton of money.
All right, that's great advice because it is easy these days or electronics to do that, and it adds up very quick.
And we got to answer to our wives.
Yeah, if you guys love to see some awesome Instagram content, go check out Captain Bob Hines' Instagram as well, and that is Central Coast Angling. Always good stuff from you, and always enjoy talking to you. Thanks for coming on the
Appreciate
show.
it, Chris. Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right. We were going to have tonight another guest, Greg Yarborough, here this evening, but unfortunately, some circumstances happened. He was not able to join us. So what we're going to do is we're going to move up Trevor's segment. He was going to go at 9:40. We're going to do it now, and so we're going to talk a little Fish Hawk electronics.
Let's do it. And everybody, it comes up in a bunch of the segments, and
Right.
now we'll get into some specifics, answer some questions, hopefully. So.
Yeah. So Curtis, Curtis Puckern over on YouTube, you had the question of that segment. So if you guys have Fish Hawk questions, now's the time. We got 19 minutes before we're going to bring on the next guest. We've been talking a lot of kind of cool stuff to a lot of different people, a lot of different things going on. Today we had a bunch of meetings, and one of the things that we brought up today was the Fish Hawk TD, and that's something that I think when people think about Fish Hawks, they think about the X4, they think about the X4D, they think about the X2, but this is a really cool product. It's something that we're seeing more and more people in the Great Lakes using.
Right. We have a tendency, myself included, to overlook the TD because one of the things that we've heard from people like Captain Dan Keating, like Mark Romack, is the number of new people that are getting into Great Lakes fishing, and obviously we talk about water temperature and we talk about speed, and oftentimes we talk about those things together. Okay, but if you're going to go out on the big lake and you're going to make it out a couple times this season, we get it. I mean, that's going to be a harder investment for you to make. So even though you may not have access to your speed information, we can still get you, half of the game with temperature.
Right.
We can still get you that temperature for, $180 basically. So, it's a good option for people that, maybe you fish an inland lake for trout, or maybe we're selling a lot of these out to the kokanee market in the West now. But if that's you, then the TD is a really good option. And the TD, there's two basic modes in it. The first one is a water temperature every 5 feet. So you're going to drop this thing from the surface all the way to the bottom. It's going to show you the water temperature every 5 feet, logs it on the screen there itself. And then the second mode is what we call a by depth mode. And what that will do is it just gives you a maximum depth. And that's for guys, let's say you want to use this to find out how deep your divers, your dipsies are running, or your Leadcore and things like that. If you go on the website, we've got videos that kind of show you how to do that and things like that. But, we're kind of starting with the TD tonight for maybe some of those newer people that are just getting into the Great Lakes game, that this is the gateway drug,
Right.
maybe. So that's the TD itself.
So that's the TD. I'm going to kind of reach behind me.
Yeah, I'll let you. You can hand me props there.
This is the X2.
This is the X2, and why don't you just grab me the other two there while you're at it. And I think I won't bury your mouse here if you can. You got room? All right,
We're good.
we're good. Okay. So I think what I'll do is just kind of walk through the systems, and then we can go from there and just maybe try and help narrow it down a little bit on what they are. So all of the systems, all of the wireless systems, the X4, the X4D, the X2, they all give you the most important info, and the most important info is your down speed and your down temp. So we'll get that out of the way in the first place. They're all gonna do that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, what you're paying for or not paying for are some of the other features. So the X4, just kind of the real basics. So the X4 is going to require downrigger. Okay, so you're always going to use it with a downrigger. You're going to trans-mount a transducer, and it's going to hook into your boat's 12-volt system, and it's going to give you the surface temperature, the surface speed, the down temperature, and the down speed. So those are kind of your 4 data points with the X4. This is the direct replacement for the 840 and 800 that that are 45 years old, but we're still doing the same basic things with the X4. The X4D it's really the same thing. So it's going to do everything that the X4 does. The additional features that's going to give you is it's going to give you the probe depth, and that probe depth is based on water pressure. So it's the true depth of the probe. It's not how far the probe is away from the transducer. It's the actual depth. It's basically taking all the guesswork out of blowback on there. A lot of guys, they'll look at their cannonball and they'll see it on their sonar screen and it'll say it's at 70 feet. Well, that, it's not at 70 feet, it's 70 feet away from the transducer. What you're going to see on an X4D is you're going to see that number as 63 or something like that, because it's going to take that guesswork out of the blowback. It's going to tell you what that is. The other additional feature that the X4D gives you is it gives you the Bluetooth functionality. And that allows you to communicate with your phone. So you can set it up. I should have pulled the app up. But lets you communicate with the Fishhawk app, so you can use your phone or a tablet as a secondary display, and that's also the functionality that lets you connect with the Canon Optimum downriggers. And then one thing I wanted to add, anybody that was still watching Rick's segment with Humminbird, is when a Fishhawk talks to a Humminbird graph, it does that through the Canon Optimum. So the Fishhawk will not go directly to a G4 Helix unit or a Solix unit. It has to go through the Optimum to get there. But that's a little techy thing. You can answer that. So that's the X4D. Again, same as the X4. It just gives you the probe depth and it gives you the Bluetooth functionality. And then the last system, as far as the full systems, is the X2. And the X2, it's really kind of established as a specialty. It's a little different in that it's portable. Okay, I don't have to mount a transducer on the boat. It uses the slip deucer system, which is actually a lot of people will assume that an X4 or an X4D has more power than an X2. Mm-hmm. They're the same. They're absolutely the same. And in fact, you can get an X2 to read deeper than you can an X4 or an X4D, just because that slip deucer is always pointed directly at the probe. Now, that's not to say that doesn't come with a little bit of care and feeding there, and it looks like we're probably going to get some of those in the questions. Yep. So the units will do the same thing. They're just in a different configuration. So it's portable. It runs with the slip deucer. You don't have to wire it into your boat's 12-volt system. What we really designed the X2 for is a multi-species boat where I'm taking this on and off. My downriggers come on and off the boat. I might be bass fishing one day, tubing with the kids, out trolling the next day. That's what the X2 works for. It works really well with manual downriggers. I don't like it personally as much with electronic downriggers. Requires a little more care and feeding that I personally like to do. But it works really well with manual downriggers, and you don't actually have to use it with the. You can actually set it up to use without a downrigger. So guys that are fishing on Lake Erie that don't typically use downriggers, that's kind of where that application came from. That's what we built the X2 for. So that's just a real kind of high level. I wanted to kind of blow through that and get to a bunch of questions, which looks like we have quite a few. So yeah, I'll let you pick the questions.
Well, we've got a ton of questions. We were talking about the TD, about the battery.
Battery,
so
sure. Yeah.
Why don't you address that and kind of why that is, why the way it is?
So the TD itself is when we build the TD, it's all molded as one piece. So we build the electronics, we mold over the electronics, and then we mold over the electronics again. So the battery inside here, lithium-ion battery inside of there, it's non-replaceable. All right, and that's usually where the questions come in with the TD is non-replaceable. Okay, that battery itself has got a 20-year shelf life, and if you use this thing every single day of the year, you're still going to get about 7 years of use out of it. So what I'm really saying there is you would have to fish an awful lot for battery life to actually become an issue with the TD, and that's usually the number one question when folks are looking at a TD is they're not quite sure what the battery life is going to be on that. So
all right,
let's go.
Our friend the Blind Osprey joins a lot of our shows. He wants to know what's the best, easiest method to record off the X4D. Says it seems like it's designed to record a bite, and you got into that a little bit a little while ago
with the app. Yeah.
And
let's see if I can fire that up here. It might not be, but the easiest way to do it is just to download the free Fishhawk app, and I've got my fishing apps buried here right now. Here we go. I'm just letting it load. All right, we re-downloaded the app. So this is what it basically, I don't know how well it's going to look, but so basically what that's going to do is that's going to allow you to recreate your screen on there. And then every time you catch a fish, all you're simply going to do is there's a log button down here in the corner, and it's going to automatically grab all your probe data. And then from there, you can go in, there's drop downs for species, presentations, colors, notes, and then that puts that all in the log. And then you can share that directly out of the, the log in the app, and you can text that right out of there if you're fishing with, friends in other boats and you decide you want to share information with them.
All right. Here's Brian over on Facebook. He wants to know what's the best way to attach probe to downriggers. Do you recommend a separate rigger for the probe, or do you put that on the line with the lure?
Nope. We always put it on the line with the lure. I mean, I suppose you could have a separate a rigger, but yeah. So you're just going to make sure you're using a good terminator kit on the end of your rigger to attach to the probe. Obviously, you don't want any connections failing there. Pay attention to those connections. I've used the clinchers for years. Never had problems with those as far as my riggers go. And then again, just pay attention to those clinchers, and actually more importantly, pay attention to the cables. Because usually if you're going to lose a probe on a rigger, it's because your cable breaks, not because your terminator breaks. So there's a kink in there, there's a loop in the line that you've reeled over, whatever. So just pay extra attention to those cables, and that's a little bit of prevention that can save a lot of heartbreak. So.
All right, Garland, he's got a question. This is going to be a good one too. My old rigger can't handle the big rigger balls. Would blowback be too great for an X4? Should he go to an X2?
I guess it kind of depends on what we call a big rigger ball, but if you can, if your rigger can handle sixes or eights, eights, you could certainly get away with an X4. If you can't handle eights and you're doing sixes and real little ones, then maybe an X2 would be that would be a choice. And it would also kind of depend on if there's a manual rigger and electric. If it's a manual, X2 is going to work just great. And even a slower electric isn't, that handles pretty well, but manual definitely, X2 it works great. In fact, that's what I use, on my own personal boat. Right now is, I've got a boat set up with manuals, and that's kind of what I'm running. So.
Yeah. Like everybody else, it was kind of a tough year last year for us, just keeping things in stock. Things were going fast. We're having a hard time replenishing, just keeping up with the new stuff, but we've got a couple questions already asking about new product for down the line. Are we working on anything new?
We're always working on new stuff. We're actually in the best inventory position today that we've probably ever been in, or at least in the last, I don't know. I think I can remember back maybe 5 years. That's kind of pushing it for me. Good memory, just short. So we're in a good inventory position right now as far as being able to support product. But we're always working on new stuff, and that's a never-ending process. That process is very lengthy right now, based on some of the things that we're seeing with all the chip shortages and things like that. It's a lengthy process, but yeah, it's a continual thing. So.
Yeah, so Jim just asked, is Fish Hawk caught up right now with availability?
We are, and there's like I said, we're in great shape right now. So.
Very cool. All right, we've got a couple questions here on the same topic as well. We'll take Thomas's. He wants to know, should the Fish Hawk be calibrated before using it?
So that's a awesome question, and I'm super glad you asked it, because the quick answer is no. A lot of people. You certainly can do it. We built the functionality in there for it, but the fact of the matter is all the Fish Hawk does is it provides you with a reference point, and our kind of simple answer is, I don't care if that number is 2 or 200. I'm talking specifically about speed here. I don't care if that number is 2 or 200. What I care about is getting back to the number that's producing fish, that's producing strikes. So what we see most of the time usually what happens when somebody goes in and they calibrate something, something gets out of whack, eventually they end up contacting us, through the customer service channels. We tell them to reset it back at factory, and 98% of the time that's the way that they'll fish it, and that's how we recommend they fish it.
All right, here's Gary over on Facebook, and he's basically saying everything works great on his X2 unless he's running his Helix. And at that point, he loses his readings. What can he do to kind of
So
get that straightened out?
what you want to do in that, Gary, is just switch your helix from the 83 kilohertz over to 200. So all the fishhawk systems run at 70 kilohertz. So the general rule of thumb is that you need to be 20 kilohertz away, either up or down, to kind of eliminate that any of that possible sonar interference. So just basically play with your sonar frequencies, and the 200 kilohertz is going to work for sure. You can also play with like the and if he's got a chirp deucer, you can I think the high chirp also works just fine too.
All right, here's one we talked about a little bit, but how do you connect the TD to the fishing line when you're going to use it?
So a couple different ways to do it. If you're using it for actually getting that temperature every 5 feet, you'll want to put some extra weight on the line. I put 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ounces. You can let that thing fall basically as fast as you want, so it gets to the bottom faster, and then I'll reel it up. If I'm using it for checking depth, as far as if I want to find out how deep my dipsy is, what I'll actually do is if my dipsy's out there running and it's 150 feet back on the number 2 setting or wherever it is, it's out there fishing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the TD on. I'm going to hook it over the line on the snap, and I'm going to let the TD slide down to the diver. And what that's going to do is that's going to give you a real accurate depth reading without impacting the running depth of the diver. And then I'll retrieve the diver at that point, and that maximum depth is going to be recorded on the TD.
Very cool. Tim Schlappy here with the question. He wants to know, he's got an old school fishhawk. Can he buy the X4 screen without buying a new probe?
Yes, you can.
There you go. Very easy answer on that one. How about Captain Rick Hajecki would like to know, can he connect his phone as well with the Canon Downrigger at the same time?
Good question. No. So it's a one and done. So if I'm running my if I want to use the fishhawk with the Optimums, it's actually going to give preference to the Optimum. It'll do that automatically in the app. So that's why it actually asks you to opt in. So it only will connect to one partner at a time, so to speak. So.
All right. So here's another one from YouTube asking, and this is someone else actually asked this as well. When using the X2 with the half rod setup, what line do you recommend using it strong enough to hold the probe and the slip deucer and the weight? And then someone actually asked, how do you set it up without a downrigger? So maybe let's go with that.
Yeah, so I usually use 50-pound braid for that. That seems to be just plenty or just fine. And I'm using either a 2 or 3 pound ball in that setup. The 3-pounder is about as much as I want to manage with as far as cranking that thing up and down with the reels. You can pump it and it works good. But either a 2 or 3 pounder and the 50-pound braid works good.
All right. How about this one from Bill? Bill wants to know, he doesn't want to lose his probe. What do you recommend for cable?
Oh, I think any cable is fine. It's just a matter of keeping. I don't know of one cable brand that's better than the other. I think it's just a cable maintenance thing. Just making sure that you're paying attention to it. And then if you see a kink, take it out. Don't wait to take. And we've all done it. It's like, I'll do that tomorrow. Well, just make sure that if you have a kink in the cable, that you're taking care of that right away. If that's going to be your probe rigger. Also had really good luck with braid too. I know getting Rick runs braid. I've had excellent luck with braid as well.
All right. Steven says he's having some trouble with showing surface speed on his X4D. What should he do?
Best thing to do actually is to contact us through our chat app. So just go to fishhawkelectronics.com during business hours. You'll either hop on with myself or Steve, and we can chat with it on it. You can also leave a message after hours on there. There's also a contact form on the service request form. You can go right to that, and then that goes to Tanya back in service. So anytime any service issue, doesn't matter what it is, you're going to talk to us. It's not going to wherever. It's us, and anybody you're talking to, they know inside and out the product.
And that's something I handle a lot of social media for the company, and we get these messages all the time. They're like, am I going to talk to someone who knows what they're doing? And we don't have 5,000 people working here. The people that you're going to talk to through our chat feature or over email or over the phone, however you choose to contact, are going to know what they're doing. So if you ever have an issue, feel free. That chat feature is really cool. You guys are sitting here during the daytime and can hop on there and solve problems really fast. So I would definitely tell people to go and use that chat feature when they can. We got a bunch of more questions here. If you guys have any questions that are specific, and even if you have service questions, again, use that chat feature. Our next guest is here to talk to us right now, so we're going to bring him on. So again, if you guys got some more questions that didn't get answered, feel free to drop those in the chat. And if they see the chat over on fishhawkelectronics.com, probably not here, they're not going to check that out. But go to fishhawkelectronics.com. You'll see the chat feature in the bottom right. Put your questions in there, and someone will definitely get back to you, usually within 24 hours. So
thanks for all the questions. That was great.
Yeah, thanks for watching tonight, and we've thanked all of our guests. I'm going to thank you for bringing the thunder there. All right, let's bring in our next guest. It is Captain Mark Kulak. And Captain Mark, how are we doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. How you guys doing? Been watching all night.
Life. We're winding down. This feels crazy. Last night we were here for 3 hours. Tonight it's going to be pretty close to it. So we've got 3 guests left, and you're one of them. It's Captain Mark Kulak from Kingsland Sport Fishing in Toronto out of Bluffers. You guys ready to get out on the water yet?
Not yet. No. My marina doesn't even open until May 1st. So I got lots of time till I'll be on the water, unfortunately.
All right. We've got you as another guy, just like Captain Richard Ajecki, with 2 brands. So let's try to get into it as quickly as possible. Let's talk Torpedo first.
Awesome. Yeah. So been using Torpedo for quite a while. And maybe I'll start and I'll talk a bit about the weighted steel. And I know Pete talked a little bit about the Leadcore and kind of touched on some of the Torpedo products slightly earlier. But, I grew up fishing the Great Lakes with my dad for years. And my dad loved other types of junk lines. And, he was a Leadcore guy. And as I got into fishing on the Great Lakes and running my own boat, I used a lot of Leadcore too. But what I would say is, and it was kind of alluded to earlier, it works really great in that, call it, 20 to 50 feet range, and really for the most part with spoons. So as I started playing around, and I tell you, sometimes you learn trial and error, I started playing around trying to run flasher flies and flasher meat. And I know you got Casey coming after, he'll talk all about that stuff. But when I started trying to run those with Leadcore, I learned very quickly that the Leadcore was not able to get them down. And sometimes I'd even see my flasher floating along the surface because the Leadcore was just too light. So, from there I went to, I call it a dirty word now, but I went to copper. And, it did the job. But, oh, my gosh, if you ever got a tangle, it was just a complete mess. So probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I bumped into Matthew from Torpedo Divers at a show actually in Toronto, because Matthew's from Southern Ontario also, and he was talking me up about the weighted steel. So I bought a couple of setups and I used it for a year, and fantastic product. So from there, I don't have a copper rod on the boat anymore. Everything was weighted steel, and I love the stuff. And actually, I've even started to call it run even some shorter sections of weighted steel, where I started to replace out or not use my Leadcores as much, because I find the weighted steel can do it all. Where I've got a rod here, it's a Shimano 600. I've got a 100 segment of weighted steel, and the rest is just a 30 or 35 pound braid backer. This gets me down 20 feet, like my four color used to get me down, or maybe my 4 or 5 color. This will be a rod I'll throw down the chute on the boat with a spoon. When I'm looking for a steelhead or coho, it's my shoot rod. And if I want to get it deeper, that's when I will either tack on, and Pete talked about it. I'll tack on one of the Torpedo Divers, or and this is where it gets interesting when I represent 2 companies, or I'll tack on one of the POW casting snap weights. So I've really started to use weighted steel a great deal. I run segments everywhere from a 50-foot segment, which is, gets me a bit down about 10 feet. That's a great rod for spring fishing. I go up to the 100 segment, and then really, 250, 300, 350, and 400. I have one of each on the boat. I don't have doubles of them. I don't want rods everywhere, and that's where I use the snap weights up. So huge fan of weighted steel. If folks have been using copper and light copper, I tell you, try weighted steel. It is a game changer, absolute game changer. You're not having to deal with the finickiness, the softness of the copper that breaks, and then I'll tell you, it happens. You get crazy fish. I've had it where I've had a quad at the same time, and they hit my long lines, and next thing you know, I've got fish all swimming into each other, and I've had some significant tangles with a weighted steel and a lead, or a weighted steel and a rigger, and I can literally unwind that weighted steel and put it back out with no damage. So it's awesome stuff.
All right, Tim Schlappy got the question of the segment for Trevor's segment. So if you guys have questions for Captain Mark, go ahead and drop them in. Mark, tell me a little bit about what I'm curious about when I see that torpedo. What is that like reeling in a fish with that on the line?
Are you talking about the weight here?
Correct. Yep.
You know what? So this one is the snapper. It's only 2 ounce, so it's not a big deal. It's not very heavy. They do make heavier ones. So I've got this one. I think throwing my glasses on. I want to say this one's a muskie. I think this one's 8 ounces. So you feel some weight, but it all depends what you've got it with. So if you've got those just with a braid line with no weighted steel, then it's just that weight. When you start to get it on with a weighted steel, it can get a little bit heavy. But it's funny because I know Pete talked earlier about how when he puts the weight on, he puts it on the leader. But he mentioned, Ivan in Canada puts it on the backer. And if he made a comment that the Canadian guys put it on the backer, well, this Canadian guy puts it on the leader like Pete. So it can be a bit heavy because obviously you've got the weight of the weighted steel and you've got that weight. But the nice thing is once you unclip that weight, you're typically at the leader and it's not so bad. If I was only running 2 rods, it probably wouldn't be the first rod I'd put out because it can be heavy. But when you start getting into running 4, 6, 8 rods, I use weighted steel because it takes more fish. Like later on in the day after that crazy hot bite in the morning slows down, typically it's my weighted steels that do all the damage later on. And I run a charter boat, so for me it's about getting fish in the boat. And if I didn't have those weighted steels out, they'd be a lot less fish.
I'm gonna jump ahead of the question queue here because I want to know myself if I had one weighted steel set up to one length of weighted steel that I'm gonna run, that I'm gonna start with, what would it be?
So for me, so I call it my stud rod fishing out of Toronto is my 250 weighted steel. So that would be if you're gonna say I only have one, that'd be my one. Every year, pretty much on my birthday, I go fishing with a buddy of mine. Just 2 of us, fun fishing. We're both captains and we just go for fun. And I always bring 2 rods. And he always looks at me because I always bring that 250 weighted steel. And he's like, "There's just 2 of us. Why do you want to weighted steel?" I'm like, "Because it takes lots of fish." So that'd be how I'd answer it, Trevor. But I would say if it wasn't a 250, I'd say a 200. Because the nice thing about the 200 is if you want to get it, it's gets you down about that 40, 42 feet. But then you can clip on snap weights and just keep getting it deeper and deeper and deeper. Like that's the piece I would say is, don't be afraid to mix the weighted steel with a snap weight, regardless of what brand snap weight. Ivan Shawa was talking not too long ago on a torpedo podcast that he'll run a 300 weighted steel, which goes down about 60 feet, and then he'll snap on I think 6-7 ounces, and we can get those rods down 100 feet on a junk line, which is pretty awesome. So that's the benefit. Like, don't be afraid to take the weighted steel and clip on weight.
Cool.
All right. Edward's got a question from Facebook. He'd like to know what would you recommend for reel size if he's going to run 500 steel with some backer?
So I'll start with
for backer.
I wouldn't be running 500 myself because that's a lot of weighted steel myself. But I think you have to go with an 8. Like my 400s on a Dakota 800. So basically I run if I'm running a Dakota 600, I'll run no more than 100. My 150, 200, 250, 300s are all on 700s. And then when I go to my 350, my 400s, they're on 800s. So I'd probably go with the 800.
Sounds good. We've got one here from Victor, and Victor wants to know how do you avoid tangles with divers when letting out your weighted steel with the torpedo? Just asking about the dive angle and weighted steel kind of going together?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Divers are on the port and starboard. My weighted steel, when I let them out, goes right down the center. So that way it's going out down the center. The weight will start to drop, and I just keep letting it out. Then when I get into the backer, I'll clip the planer board, and I'll slowly let that board come out to the side.
All right, you want to start talking some POW weights? Let's go to that.
Sure, yeah, no problem. So, another Canadian brand that I get to represent is POW Casting, and they've got a few products and a cool actual coupon code that we'll share at the end of this. But they've got a few different downrigger weights, and I'd say first I'm going to show you it's their original weight, which is their POW weight, and it's a fish style weight here, super thin. But what I love about the POW weights is actually they come in many different colors. So I've got a green one here, which when we get that nice green water out by Toronto Islands and Bluffers, this is a great one that I put in the water when it's nice and green. But they have them in all different colors. So obviously they've got black, they've got blue, they've got purple, they've got the green. They got a great silver one. So on our second boat, which is our Trojan 11 meter, we've got 3 riggers. The center rigger, we run a POW 13 with the fishhawk probe, but that it's their silver one, because that rigger always has a spoon, and we literally use that downrigger weight as an attractor to bring the fish in because it's silver, and we run a short lead on that boat. The other cool thing about POW is they got this one, and it's, there you go, hard to see. This is a glow in the dark. So this one here, I've got on my boat, on King's Landing 1 that I run, I've got 2 riggers. This one always goes in my deep rigger because this is the one I can take my UV light, I can glow it up, and this is a glow bait. So glow downrigger ball. So I can shove this down, 100, 150 feet. I believe in, if it doesn't glow, it doesn't go when it's down deep. So that's the other thing I like about POW. These weights are great because, like I said, they're really thin. They really cut through the water a great deal. They've got the dimples to make some noise. So that's a great thing about the POW weights. The other thing, and they track great. The other thing I'd say, I think it was last year, POW reached a deal with the guys over at Titan, and POW now is the producer of the Titan weights. I've got one here. I think I should get an award for having the heaviest props in this. But this is the Titan weight right here. This is an 18 Titan. So another fish-shaped weight. You can actually see it's got like the gills and everything. Another great weight. These I think are available in I want to say 12, 15, and 18. This one's an 18. And again, Brad from POW makes them in all of the colors. So great downrigger rates. Benefit to these is, and obviously they get your baits down deep where you need them to be, but it's less blowback. Whether they be the POW weight that's very narrow, or even the Titan weight, they just have a lot less blowback. When I started as a kid, we were just running round cannonballs, and when I was fishing out west in Vancouver, you didn't have any of the stuff. It was just a round cannonball. But this is just a significant difference between these weights. The 18-pound Titan versus a 16-pound POW, my non-scientific opinion is they actually have about the same blowback, because the 16-pound POW I find just cuts the water even better. So I'd say that's their downrigger rates. The other thing they've got, is they've got these great snap weight kits. So that's the other thing I use a lot of POW, and I talked a bit about it with the Torpedo products too. Like Torpedo's got their weight. POW's got their weights. I have really, over the last probably 2 years, started to try to remove a lot of the rods off the boat and just having what I need, and then having the various different weights to make the rods more versatile.
Yeah, I think that's super appealing to people, especially small boat anglers, people getting into it. That's been a big question here over the last couple of evenings, has been the adding weights to different kind of presentations.
Yeah, I think people are scared of doing it at first, but for me, it's I know some captains that they only have a 300 weighted steel, and everything else they just clip weights onto, like they have 2 or 3 of the same rod and they just clip weights on. I've not gone to that method yet, but I will often use the weights, and I use on Leadcore too. Like I still do have some Leadcore rods. I use I use the Stealth Core Fish USA. I love that stuff. I have some Leadcore, and some short cores. And again, I will use the weights on those as well. Often I put those down the chute with the weights clipped on, and then I'll actually then clip it onto my rear planer here, where then I basically have it planing out way behind the boat, so it's out of the way of my spread. But yeah, snap weights are awesome.
All right, here's one from Chris over on Facebook. He'd like to know what's the best way to terminate weighted steel to the backer and leaders.
So I've played around with it. That is probably, it's a great question, because that's probably the one thing that scares people about weighted steel, because it's really tough stuff, and it is a bit more difficult to terminate. I do it two ways. The first way, and probably the way I do the most, I actually run a small segment of braid, and I use an Albright knot between the weighted steel and then my backer. And that small segment of braid is, I want to say I run a 100-pound braid or a 130-pound braid. You can't run a light braid because the weighted steel is so strong, it will snap it. So if you do use it where you're using an Albright knot on both ends, you've got to use a heavy segment of braid, like I'm talking 12-inch segment of braid between the two. That being said, Torpedo has made it easy. And it's going to be hard to see here, but Matthew has these little weighted steel termination kits. And what they are, it's there's a little swivel with a crimp and shrink tube. And now you just basically slide those over. You slide those over the weighted steel, loop it around, crimp it, and you're done. And then you just tie on your backer. And then you do the same thing on the front end with your leader. Whether you're running a mono leader, fluorocarbon leader, same thing. Just use your favorite knot. I use a uni knot, and you're done. So that's I'd say look into the Torpedo termination kit. It's the easiest way. And all my new setups, and as I re-rig some of my rods and put some new setups for this year, they're all having that setup on.
Mark, you have one of my favorite YouTube channels, and here's a question from YouTube. And it's actually not really a question, it's a statement, but we're going to lead it to a question. He says, your new website project, Salmon Custom Flashers and Meathead Tackle, look amazing. So tell us about that. How about a third brand that you're going to touch on?
Yeah, so I've, I think some people know, but it's been a bit of a secret. I've been painting custom flashers for about 5 or 6 years. You can see, that's just some of my tapes. I got a paint booth over here. I've got flashers all over the place. I've probably got a few thousand blanks. I've been doing them for years and supplying a lot of the tournament teams on the Canadian side here, a lot of other anglers. And over time, through my Facebook channel, people would always reach out to me and say, hey, Mark, can you make me this? Can you make me that? I got this great paddle, but I wish it would, one I do a lot is it's a UV frog pattern, but they're like, I wish I had like a lightning back, like a white lightning. And I started to do these. And not that I have enough free time to do it, but I've been doing this for about 5-6 years. So I've over the last couple of years, I constantly get people asking me for, do I have a website? Do I have a website? Can I make this? So finally I bit the bullet, and I put a website up. And this year I was getting so many questions. I was starting to ship a whole bunch of orders to Lake Michigan, to Illinois, all over the place, New York State. And I went, I better get a site up. So I'd been working on the site for about the last year, and it's finally live. And but I have to tell guys, I want to say it's projectsalmon.square.site, as I still have to work through the domain registration. It's also linked on my Kings Landing Sport Fishing website. But I basically need to I tell people a lot of this is the short runs. So like I put a flasher out today. I'm like, hey, I got 5 of these and I've got no more blanks to make more. So that's the cool thing about this. There'll be some stuff that is regular, and there'll be some stuff that it's literally I'm making 5, 10, 15 of it, and then it's over. Other than the 5 or 10 that I made for myself that I put aside.
All right, Mark, we're about to run out of time, but I know you had a special offer that the guys from POW put together for you. So tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
the guys at POW have got a great offer. So for anyone that goes to the powcasting.ca website, POW will do 20% off all sales from now until March 15th. There is a coupon code, and I just got to make sure I can read it here on my screen. The coupon code is VGL F22, and that will allow you to get 20% off any of the POW casting products on his website. The website is in Canadian dollars, but Brad at POW does show that the conversion rates. I think right now it's about, if you take the price and divide it by about 1.25, that'll give you the US dollar price approximately, call it. But a great offer, 20% off. until March 15th if you use that coupon code. So pretty exciting.
Yeah,
And that's off all of his products.
Yeah, thanks to them for doing that. It's a VGLF 22. It's a virtual Great Lakes Fishing 22. Mark, another thing I want to touch on before you leave. Again, if people want to learn more about salmon fishing, a lot of the lessons that you teach would work on any water, but in particular Lake Ontario, check out his YouTube channel. It's King's Landing Sport Fishing, and it is some great stuff. So thanks so much for coming on the show tonight, Mark.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Mark Kulak from King's Landing Sport Fishing, and it's starting to run down. We got 2 guests left. I see
It's flying.
it is flying. I see one of those guys in the green room right now, and it is Captain Casey Prisco. We're going to bring him on the show. Captain Casey, how are we doing tonight?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Oh, we're excited. It's been a great show. We it's just amazing when we think about the people who've been on the show the last 2 nights, and not only just the guests and what they bring to the table, but the audience has been really amazing over the last 2 days.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for doing this for everyone. It takes a lot of your time to do this, and it's not only appreciated by me, but I've heard from numerous people how appreciative are you guys for doing this. So I actually put my Fish Hawk gear on to support you guys during this. I was going to wear some Dirty Goose apparel, but I wasn't going to do that.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll give kudos to Chris because you've done the heavy lifting on this project. So good job.
Thank you. But again, it doesn't go. And the great thing is I reached out to guys like you and everybody else that's been on and said, hey, we want to come on the show. And it's like, yep. And here we can do it. And again, just being able to reach out to you guys and having everybody be able to say yes, it's a good thing. And we're going to start. I know you wanted to kind of talk about presentations. We want to get you there. But again, my favorite questions on these shows are from other captains when they try to poke the bear a little bit. Captain Pete wants to know why they call you Superman.
Pete gave me that name. When I go to Wilson in May, I go for about 5 weeks, and when I go, I just love it there. I love the fishing. I love the camaraderie. I love the dock life, even though I don't get to see it too much. I do double after double there. I'll do over 70 trips in 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks there. So he calls me Superman. I like to call Pete Wildman. I don't know if you guys saw him earlier. The wings he has going on the side. He needs a haircut. I also going to tell you, I can get into this later. Continue. Sorry. I have a little more for Pete. We'll touch base on that a little bit here, Pete.
All my son's hockey buddies pay money for those wings. They have to go and pay for those things. He's got
young kids, they're in. Old men,
not so much.
No.
All right, let's get into some of these presentations. People want to learn some stuff. We're having fun giggling a little bit, but we're talking flies, we're talking meat rigs, we're talking spoons. So we'll let you kind of go here for a little bit.
Sure. I think the biggest thing I get asked a lot is when's it too early to run meat, or when can I run flies, or when can I run spoons? What I would tell you on that is you can have a fly in the water first thing, depending on where you're fishing. And when I'm in Wilson in May, I have meat, flies, and spoons in the water. When I start brown trout fishing, I don't really run anything besides stick baits and spoons until I slide out a little bit deeper to that 25 to 30 feet of water. And then I will put a piece of meat or a fly or two on a dipsy diver or on a Leadcore. Springtime, I find that the fish are active. It's been a long winter for them too. They're chomping just like we're chomping to get out there. I'll go over a few ones that I like. These are probably my top 6 favorite colored spoons. You've heard them before, but I'll show you again. UV Can't Afford It. That's good in dirty water. UV Doctor. These are by Stinger. The Black Widow. UV Pickle Seed with the white back. That's a killer in dirty water. UV NBK and UV Green Glow Alewife. Some of my top spoons anywhere on the lake. I can be in Rochester brown trout fishing, salmon fishing. I can be in Wilson. It doesn't really matter. Those fish are going to eat those spoons anywhere on the lake. I mean, it's all different conditions, obviously. Dirty water, clear water, depends on what you're doing with your colors. But start the morning with half and half and change it up as you go. As far as flies, I'll go touch Wilson real quick. I got this from my good friend Pete. Quick story. It's in his basement. I said, Pete, what's that? Never seen that. Oh, I had them made. They don't work. I said, well, can I have one? He kindly charges me full retail for them. So I paid it because he's a buddy of mine and I know he needs the money. He's a charter captain. So we go out the next day. I can't keep this thing in the water. UV 190 fly behind it on a diver. It catches kings and cohos in Wilson. So we're going to call this Sneaky Pete because he's very sneaky. And this is Atomic UV 190. To pair that up, when you use it, you need a set of binoculars. Pete's known for binoculars. Hide your nets, and you're fighting fish. Keep the rods down because he will set right down by you. I just saw a YouTube video on it. He's that guy. No respect. Watch out.
Oh man, shots fired.
Maybe Pete's messing with his internet.
I think so.
Right now.
I think Pete just hacked. I think Pete just hacked Casey's internet.
We'll give him a minute here to come back on.
Am I back?
You're back. Yep.
All right. 41 fly. It's an ultra green glow. Must have. Early morning, all day long. This fly is by an Atomic Will Hunt. Stud fly. Same thing. All day long. Tried and true. The old original hand.
All right, we're struggling here with the internet connection. Oh, you're back, Casey.
You're back.
And I'm pretty excited about this one. This is the Dirty Goose fly. I ran this in a Twinkie for the last 3 years, and Tom was nice enough to make this fly for me. It's going to be a killer. That's what I've been running behind the Bullfrog for the last 3 years. Here it is in a Twinkie. That has been an absolute stud for me. As far as meat, you can put it in the water first thing in the morning. You can run it all day long. Springtime, mid-season, late season, stagers, they will eat it all year long. I stress, don't just put it in the water. Tune it. Make sure it's doing the right roll. It's not just there spinning. Springtime, I think the cold water, you can go a little bit faster. As it starts to warm up, I think you need to slow down. But some days they want it slow in the spring. So, listen to the fish. They're going to tell you what they want. Watch your fish hawk. There's a lot of currents in the springtime. Water's moving around. Winds are constantly on Lake Ontario. So having a fish hawk's key. I think I've seen, a lot of guys, oh man, it's a lot of money for a fish hawk. I can look at the rod and see. No, you can't. Get yourself a fish hawk before you go buy yourself a couple of tractors. Because the ones you have might work. They're just not working now because you don't have your speed. As far as spoons, I like standard size spoons in the spring for browns. Once in a while, I'll run a stinger size or a stingray size. Sorry. As I go to Wilson, I'll switch it up to some mags. Sometimes out there they do want a stinger though. There's a lot of smelt around, so don't be afraid to try smaller spoons. A mix. Let the fish tell you what they want, but be observant to your pattern in the water. Did I get them going fast? Did I get them going slow? Is the spoon stretched way back? Are they hitting the cheaters today? It all makes a difference, and I think that's where you can find a lot more increased catches by paying attention to what you're doing. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Pete will text me 30 times while I'm out there, telling me he's got one on. Don't matter. I have one on too, Pete. So it's all good. It's all fun. But do your program. Don't fish somebody else's. You can look at the spoons, and I hear it all the time from the tackle shops. This guy came in, he bought the spoon you said, and it didn't work. They don't always work for me either. Fortunately, that they're fish, but this is what I'm catching them on. So I'm always honest. I do a report every day after the charters. I will give it away exactly what I'm using, where I'm using it, how I'm using it, speed, direction, everything. I like to see people catch fish, whether it's on my boat or on your own. So it's always good to help. I was that guy once when I first started coming up here. And I was lucky enough that I had a lot of greats help me. Now it's time to give back. So I like doing that. As far as flies go, you can't go wrong with Atomics. Tom and Steph run an awesome business. Their flies are second to none. That's the only fly I'll put in the water. They last, and they have just unbelievable results. I mean, those flies are just, they're built to last, and they're built to catch fish, and they do both. Spoons, stingers are my number one choice by far. You have to fish what you have confidence in, and that's what I have confidence in. So that's what I choose.
All right, you want to get into some meat rigs, Casey? We got a bunch of questions loading up here, but let's talk meat rigs real quick.
Meat rigs, I run two different types. I run atomic and I run diabolical. I have them prepped. It's always good to have preparation. I like a warship. There's a lot of warships there. Davis destroyers, UV 190s. The Dirty Goose rig, that's the head I use with it. It's a white diabolical head or a white John King head. A couple more warships. Can't go wrong with the 41s or the white ultra glows, especially in Wilson. I love that out there. I even love it on the East End with Oswego when you get the right color water. Some steel gators. And last year, that was a Pro-Am Twinkie set right there. That was really good with a Fat Nancy's chip. With meat, there's, everyone's like, what length do you run? And I'm sure a lot of people watched Rick's picture that he posted up there, and it looked like it was a super long lead. There are days you can run a longer lead. There's days they want it short. So once again, experiment. What works on my length on my boat might not work on your boat. So check it out and change it. Standard, I think they come from atomic with 42 inches, and I think 44 from diabolical. I don't have luck with that. There's times I can catch fish on it, but I'm more confident. I run a 60-inch lead. I like a longer leader. But it might be doing something with the speed that I do or where I'm putting it. So don't go by my information on that. Go by your own boat and what you have your own, see your own results and success from. Other than that, get out there. Can't catch them on the couch.
Casey, how does that affect what that meat rig's doing, changing that leader length? How do if you go longer or shorter, how does that affect what it does?
It's going to change the whip of the Twinkies and the action of that when it's spinning around. The tighter it is, the more it's going to move. The longer you make it, the slower that presentation is going to be. I think for me, it works better longer. I mean, there are days I run them short. I'll cut a Twinkie off and make it a two twig Twinkie rig. Say that fast. And do very good on smaller chips, 8-inch chips. There's times late season when they're stagers and you want to piss them off, that you run that behind a 11-inch fish, or 13-inch fish or 11-inch attractor, and you have great results with it. I run different lengths, but most of them I like 60 inches. That's where I would say my average is 60-inch lead.
All right, David asks, what's your best fish hawk down speed trolling for big summer kings while running meat?
I like 2.2, 2.1. And that's not calibrated. That's right out of the box. I don't change any of the fish hawk settings. I like slower and deep, cold. Big kings are lazy. They didn't get big and fat by being active. They got there by being lazy. So keep it slow for them. And sometimes less is more. Don't put a bunch of rods down there. Run one rod or two rods down to that, the abyss. Sometimes we have a 700 copper, and that'll go all day long. I put a rigger down there and they don't want it. And there's other days I have a rigger down 150, 170 feet and my 700 copper sits. So there's days both go. But keep it slow and I like a longer lead for them too.
All right. Here's a guy asking about brown trout in the spring. If you're limited to a 6-rod spread for spring browns, what would you run?
I would put 2 board rods out on each side. I would have a stick bait on 2 of them. I'd probably put like a black and silver Smithwick and a bay rat. And I'd have 2 one colors. If you don't have one colors, a couple number 2 split shots, 5 feet up with 2 spoons. And then I would run 2 Chinook divers Depending on your depth, but anywhere from 7 to 10 feet of water, you run a Chinook diver 10 feet out. And those spoons I showed you before, that's a great one. Any one of these spoons, these 6 spoons, you put them on your Chinook divers and you'll have great stuff in the springtime there.
Cooper down there digging for something?
That's Cooper. He's very come here, Cooper.
Cooper's got to say hi.
He's looking for attention, so he's digging a spot to lay down.
All right, Tim wants to know what brand is the flasher, the Bullfrog flasher you keep talking about. Where can he get it?
Here it is, right here. That's the exact tractor. Let me move back a little bit in this way. That's the exact tractor. It's an Oki. Fat Nancy's carries them. I believe they have them in stock. You put that behind with the Dirty Goose rig behind it, and hold on. It's been my best the last 3 years.
All right. Here's a question from Steve. Steve wants to know if you always run Twinkies with your meat rigs.
90% of the time I will. When I can watch my Panoptics and I see that they're coming in and looking at something and going away, I'll put just a single piece of meat behind like an 8-inch chip. Sometimes I think the big attractor's too much, so I'll put an 8-inch chip out there and like a 36 to 48-inch lead behind it and just a clean head, and watch. Some days they want it clean. Not a lot though. No, I like the Twinkies, especially when you're fishing Wilson. The water's a little.
All right. Donnie wants to know if you're using artificial meat or natural.
I lose you again?
Yep,
Yeah, we're
you're
good.
back now, though. Donnie, I'd like to know if you're using artificial meat or natural.
Natural. I do run artificial occasionally. If you tune it right, it's almost as good as the real thing, but there's nothing as good as the real thing. I like herring. A lot of guys run, Alewives or Moon Eyes. Atomic makes some Moon Eyes, and I like, Atomic's meat. The herring strips are second to none. There's a couple other companies in Canada I heard that are going to be coming over too. I know it's limited, but I like herring. That's my go-to is herring strips.
All right. Randy is a guy that watches the show quite often. He'd like to know leader length for your fly to the flasher.
Changes. Springtime, I would say 24 inches, 26 inches. Later in the season, if I'm trying to run flies with meat and I'm running slower, sometimes I make it shorter. Late season, when I run like an 11-inch tractor, we have our staging fish. I'll have like a 40-inch lead behind an 11-inch tractor. But that's, again, what works on my boat might not work on your boat. I like it a little longer. I would say for any boat, a minimum of 22 inches behind an 8-inch tractor. If you start going to like a 11-inch tractor or a 10-inch spin doctor, you can lengthen them up even more because that rotator is moving in a bigger, a circle. But sometimes a shorter fly on a tractor like that, it depends on the fish, how aggressive they are. But pay attention to it, and as you're running it, move it in and out, and try a couple different lengths and go from there.
All right, Jay, I'd like to know when do you start using meat, and what time of year do you think is the right time? Hey, there's Cooper.
There he is. I'll put meat in the water first thing I get to Wilson. Every rod will have it. I might put a spoon up high depending on the temperatures and what I'm hearing, but beginning of May. If I was in Wilson earlier, I'd probably have it in April. Down this end we don't have the salmon population on the east end, so it's tough to run meat for brown trout. I mean, they will bite it occasionally, but I would say spoons and stick baits are definitely going to outperform it on the east end in the springtime.
All right, if you guys want to know more about fishing Lake Ontario, Casey, and you saw a few different comments. He does basically a daily fishing report and basically opens his book for you, lets you know what he's got going on and how he's catching fish. Casey, anything else that you want to plug before we let you go here? You've got about 40 seconds.
I do. This year I decided to give away 5 charters for kids. And when I want to give them away for kids, I mean for kids that wouldn't normally be able to do it. If anybody knows a family, maybe they can't afford a charter, maybe they, come in bad times. I don't care. Have them send me an email. It's caseyprisco@gmail.com, or you can send me an email nominating them. I'm giving away 5 trips this year to kids that couldn't go do it. I once was that kid, and I was fortunate enough that my dad brought me fishing with my grandfather, and I'll never forget it. Some of my best memories of fishing ever. And if I can do that for somebody else, it would make me happy. So email me. It's caseyprisco@gmail.com, or you can go on my Dirty Goose page. But starting April 1st, I'm going to give away a charter for April, May, June, July, August, for some kid that wouldn't normally be able to go do it. And hopefully they have a great time and catch a bunch of fish that they would never be able to catch. So I want to thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure. You guys are great people and fun. And last thing, Pete, I'm coming for you. So it's Streamer.
All right, Casey. We really appreciate you coming on the show, and it was awesome being on the boat with you last year and talking about memories. It's something that my family's always talking about too. Between my dad and my son, we just had an amazing time with you on the water. It was a good time.
That was a great day. It brought back memories of me. That was same thing. Me, my dad, and my grandfather with you and your son and your father. That was awesome. I can't wait to see you guys in May. And I think I told you this, but I didn't tell anybody else. I did purchase a new boat just for you guys.
I told you you're going to need a bigger boat with that crew.
Yeah, I know. I might get a chef or something too. Maybe Pete will take the day off and he can cook for you guys.
That sounds amazing.
I really like that.
Well, thanks so much, Casey. I appreciate you. And again, if you want to find out more about him, you can go to Dirty Goose Sport Fishing on Facebook. Appreciate you coming on here tonight. It was awesome to see you and to have you on the show.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the night.
All right, that's Captain Casey Prisco, and definitely check him out. I think he did it a year or two ago too, where he gave away some trips, and he's a guy that getting young people and getting new people in the sport's pretty important to him. So love to have him on and get a chance to talk to him. And here's another guy. It's amazing. It's like every guy we bring up feels like a friend. And it is Captain Jim Steele, and I got to hang out with him last summer as well. We went out on Lake Erie with Captain Jim and had a good time out there.
This is the first time I've actually seen your face, and probably this is like the reunion tour for me. So
right,
yeah. I mean, this whole show thing has been put everybody upside down. We didn't get to see each other.
Well, I saw that Diane was working on the technical.
That's my my IT support crew.
I saw that in the green room, so I have a feeling everything's gonna work pretty good if she did it. So.
Oh yeah, she's about an arm's distance away. She's over here clicking away. We're leaving for a Erie PA show tomorrow morning. So.
Right.
So you guys are busy. It's show season for you. You've got a lot of things going on, but what we wanted to bring you on tonight was to talk to you about Trax Tech, and we'll kind of throw the stage to your way and go ahead and let us have it with what you got. Let's take care of a quick business. It was Chris Bund getting the question for Mark, and I'll get Casey's here in a second. If you got questions for Captain Jim Steele, go ahead and drop it on there. We're going to be talking Trax Tech here for the next 20 minutes.
All right. I'm just going to start out with just some of the basic stuff. For anybody that doesn't know anything about Trax Tech, they started making products in 1996. And 3 of the products that they actually started out were the Trax, the RRH230, and the swivel base, which they're still being manufactured. They've been tweaked over the years. So pretty much getting into the Trax setup, it's pretty much anywhere from a 6 all the way to the 12, 18, 24, 36, 48, and all the way out to a 60. The groove is actually designed so you don't have to just use the Trax Tech. It'll fit any of the major manufacturers. One of the biggest things with the Trax Tech stuff is it's all made in-house, and instead of it being powder coated, it is anodized. So it's actually even saltwater tested. Everything comes with hardware pack, which is nice because after you buy the stuff, you don't have to worry about running out and picking up your bolts and everything else which add up. So that's all stainless stuff. So I'm just going to run through some of the basic rod holders, which this is kind of the meat and potatoes rod holder, which was the RRH 230. This is the first one that they came out with in 96. Pretty much 5 position with the plunger pin. On the bottom part of it, it actually has 45 degrees, so you can actually set it straight in the track or actually 45 either direction. Then we get into, this is the RH1. The advantage with the RH1 is that it fits in the track like normal. The top part pivots here. You can actually go over more than 180 degrees. And then on the base, this actually swivels 360 degrees. So that gives you plenty of options. You could actually mount it on to a track system on an arch, on your gunnel. Tons and tons of options with this. These are pretty much off of my boat. So these have been through the battle, and as you can see, they look pretty good. This is kind of the dream rod holder that I was excited about when they first came up with it. This is the GT100. This is a ratcheting rod holder. Talked about my wife being in the background. This is a lifesaver for her because this actually has 17 actually ratcheting positions, but if you put it all the way down, you actually have 18. So for like your dipsies, it's a perfect thing because especially on my boat, the gunnels being so high, she's shorter. So a rod goes off with the dipsy and it's pulling hard. She can't get it out of the rod holder without feeling like she's going to fall over the side of the boat. So what she's able to do is just basically grab the rod holder and ratchet it straight up and then pull the rod out. That also has the ability to rotate 45 degrees either way. Just kind of running through some of the stuff that I run on my boat. This has been kind of one of my lifesavers. Is I went through the whole horizontal rod holder setup, basically taking a huge footprint. I had 4 rod holders for my planer boards, and that was taking up actually 2.5 foot of space there. So I was able to basically condense it down to 6-inch area. Has grooves on 3 of the sides, so you can actually put accessories on it. So like this is my planer board caddy. I've got 4 of the actual, this is our RRH 230 basically in the setup where you can basically set them all the way out, whichever way you want. Storage, the base actually rotates, so you can actually run it for storage straight back. You can tilt it out to the side. This pivots 360 degrees all the way around. Everything locks in the tree with thumb screws. There's been some updates. These are older ones. There's double thumb screws on the new ones. That's just a few of the things. I'm just kind of bits and pieces. It was a game changer. I actually started using Trax Tech, I would say somewhere around 2008, and I've never used anything else since then, especially made right in Michigan. Everything is done in-house. The only thing that they outsource is the hardware, because stainless hardware you can't manufacture cheap enough. They've actually expanded to the point now they have 150 SKUs. They make over 2,000 components. An advantage with them is that Jeff actually fishes. He fishes on a tournament team in Michigan. And so he's actually firsthand knowledge, not just somebody that's building fishing stuff that actually doesn't fish. Like I said before, everything is anodized. Just like I said, on this rod holder, the GT100, there is actually 24 parts and pieces in this that they actually manufacture all the pieces. So when you're ordering something, don't think that it's something they just throw on a machine and it pops out the finished product. There's 24 pieces that actually have to go into this to actually manufacture it. So that's what you're actually, when you're buying this, is you're buying not just one piece, you're buying multiple pieces that were machined, CNC, everything's, their building was 10,000 square feet. They just expanded, so another 10,000 square feet. Brand new machine that they're going to get up and running. They have over 200,000 pounds of stock material in-house, so they're going to keep manufacturing and keep going and going and going. Getting into the Downrigger, Jeff bought out Vector. about 12, 13 years ago and basically revamped their Downrigger, and the RH1 basically tweaked it, updated it, and it took them 2.5 years to basically develop the Downrigger that they have, which is, if anybody's seen it, with the push pad, with a redundant counter, jigging feature, pretty much a bulletproof Downrigger. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of it. I mean, if somebody wants to hear about how I have it set up on my boat, we can get into that. And
Jim, I got a quick question for you. You showed the tree there,
yes,
and you did say that it definitely clears up some space on your rail, but is there any kind of fishing advantage to getting those rods vertical and getting them high up off the water?
yes, especially I switched over a bunch of years ago from basically your traditional big boards. I'm running all inline, so it gives you the ability to basically raise your rods off the water, and we can actually run them all at the same degree arc. So when you're actually on the water, you can look off to the side and actually see all the tips. They should all be in uniform. If they're not, something's happening, either weeds, tangle, which hopefully not. If you got a hanger that's a smaller fish that's on there, or non-target or something like that. But you can see a lot more of the actual rod action because they're side by side. I mean, on planer boards, it's pretty much a given. Run all the same rods, same action, same backbone, so you can actually see what's different that's happening as you're going along.
All right, we got a good question here from Bill. Bill wants to know if he's got a boat with a thinner gunnel, would you recommend a plywood backer underneath?
On some of the smaller tracks, you can actually get an aluminum backer that you can stick up underneath it. I know guys that have put plywood. You can put starboard. I would definitely put a backer on it if you don't have any real thickness to them. I mean, on my Tira, my Grady White, and everything that I had, and before that, I had some aluminums. I put basically the backing plate underneath it, or at least try to get some big fender washers up in there. To me, I'm one of those things. I'd rather have more than less. Even if the bigger the track, the longer it is, the more it's going to distribute the actual the weight distribution when it's pulling. You really won't actually understand how much force there is. And I mean, when you go pull a dipsy rod out of the rod holder, now picture you have that 4 rods hanging in a tree that's 4 foot off your gunnel. So I would definitely do some kind of a backer. But the longer the track you have, the more it's going to distribute the weight along it.
All right. I know you're not based in the factory there, but we've had problems. There's been a lot of companies having problems keeping things in inventory. Getting a couple questions about that. You said that they're expanding their operations. Do you know? I know a lot of people are asking about when those things are going to still be in stock. So there's a few questions about trees, things like that.
I can tell you, I actually spoke with Jeff earlier today, and they are full out manufacturing is best that they can. They have a good stockpile of tracks. Their main things, which is especially me going into doing a couple shows, is I wanted to know how's it looking for tracks, how's it looking for rod holders, and how's it looking for trees, because that's kind of our mainstay with what people are looking for, especially setting up a brand new boat. They're trying to pump it out as fast as they can. Kind of the buffer that they've been saying is 6 weeks. Pretty much figure, if it's something that's not in stock, figure 6 weeks. But I can tell you from experience, the 6 weeks has been 4 days, and it's been 6 weeks. So I mean, if you're in the market for something, you better get on it and you get to it. And they're going to try their hardest to get it going. They're, like, I spoke to him at 5 o'clock, and they were at no point thinking about even quitting for the day at that point. So Jeff and Millie they live this. This is their thing. So they're going to keep pushing as hard as they can. They have the material. That's one of the biggest problems with what we've seen, especially with trying to get any kind of product, is not having the actual stock material to build from. And they've got a pretty good stockpile. They've been staying on top of it. They've been stocking up ahead of time. There's pretty much raw material 6 months out. So like Jeff told me today that he has over 200,000 pounds of material sitting on the floor. So they're going to keep manufacturing. The machines are running nonstop. As soon as the parts get machined, they start putting them together, like I said. So people have to understand that it's not an instant thing for a rod holder, because like that GT100, it's 24 pieces and they make usually 2,000 of those pieces at a time to do a run. So it's not going to happen overnight, but the final product is what you're going to get. The quality of it, Jeff is meticulous with basically all how the tolerances are and everything. So you're definitely you're getting beyond your money's worth when it comes to them.
Yeah, we've lived it firsthand too. It's the challenges right now. They're real, and sometimes there's not fast solutions or not maybe the answers we want to hear. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you guys have gone through it where you're waiting and waiting, and I mean,
no, we have, and trust. There's nothing more frustrating to us than not filling orders. But things are improving, So it's yeah.
All right, Randy's got a question over on Facebook. He said he just ordered a complete set of some 5-foot tracks with cutouts. Should he cap both ends of the track or leave the front end open?
Personal preference. I've got guys that basically don't put the end caps on them. On mine, I run end caps. It's extra security system, and even all my stuff stays on the boat down at the marina. So it's one more thing that somebody'd have to take apart. That with the cutout, people can slide stuff off in between, but I like the finish of the end caps. I like the extra security. If something does happen, the thumb screws rattle or something like that, and then it starts working its way down the track, and next thing you look over and you're missing one of these pieces that you just spent time and money waiting for.
So cap them, and then you'll keep them.
Yep.
Cap them if you want to keep them.
Cap.
All right, we're starting to run out of gas tonight. Donnie would like to know, how do you fight an outside fish in a 3 planer board spread?
Basically, let that board on the inlines, pretty much the resistance of the fish actually makes that board walk across towards the middle. You got to kind of let it do its thing. And if it won't do it on its own, you can actually kind of release the bail a little bit, put your thumb on it and kind of feed it over. You'll get it to drop behind the boat, come right up the middle. Chris has seen it firsthand, and then the ability where you can put that board right back out to the outside with the inlines. That was one of the biggest things with the speed and repetitiveness of basically clearing lines, getting them out, getting them in. Basically one that drag of the fish hitting that bait actually takes the side planing out of it, and it'll actually pull the board to the center of your boat. So then you can reel it right up the middle.
All right, last question of the show is going to be, what show are you working this weekend, from Thomas?
It is actually the Erie Promotions. It's in Erie, PA. RV and Sports Show, which is actually Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All right, we've been talking about Trax Tech. We've been talking about Dreamcatcher, but you've got a shop too, and that's where you're going to the show with. That's Innovative Outdoors. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that just kind of started out as one of the things. Some of the companies that we were dealing with, we actually started selling some of their products, and we actually started getting into things that we used and we couldn't get access to. So then it became kind of a goal that we started selling the things that we run. And I've had companies come to me and tell me, you need to sell our product. And I'll tell them straight out, we'll run it for a season. And if it does everything that you want it to, that you say it will, then we'll start selling it. So we don't sell any of the lower end reels because I stand behind everything I say. I'd rather have you spend a little bit more money and come back to me and say you were right about that and say, yeah, you sold me a piece of junk. So, so we kind of stick with just the core things, and that's what we sell. We have an online store. Like I said, we do the shows, and then that's turned into, we run a tournament. We've actually developed into a tournament series because we do the weight scales for all the Eastern Lake Erie walleye tournaments and derbies. I'm actually vice president of the Eastern Lake Erie Charter Boat Association. We started Experience New York Outdoors TV show. That's taken off locally, and we actually do some digital streaming. So, yeah, pretty busy, but it's kind of self-inflicted.
Yeah, it's a good time. I had a question just pop up about the URL. It's got an S in it, so if you're not getting it by where you type in, check out that TRAXSTECH.com. That's how you're going to find it. Jim, another thing that you do along with your wife and your awesome team you got there, you guys have a television show. Tell us about the TV show.
So that just started out a couple of friends of ours, and we'd been pretty much doing some basic filming. And one of our friends, he was actually involved with another group a couple of years ago, and we had the logistics side of it with the business and the charters, and he actually runs a charter. And we kind of kicked it around for a year and decided we were going to go for it. And what it does is actually experience New York outdoors, and we actually air on three stations locally, which actually covers all the way into Canada, into Pennsylvania, but mostly all New York, Elmira, Rochester, and everything else. That airs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then we actually do the YouTube stuff, and then it actually streams on the Hunt channel. So on the TV shows, we've actually had 35,000 local viewers that have been viewing it, and then we've had between 8 and 14 million hits on the Hunt channel. So it's taken right off. We cover hunting, fishing, predominantly fishing, because myself and Cody, we're both charter captains. We fish a lot of the tournaments. We've got a lot of friends that do all that stuff. So that's kind of the mainstay. We do when we're not fishing, we're hunting. And then we got into kind of like the things that happen in New York. We've done maple syrup. We've done a bunch of different stuff. We went up to the Tupper Lake and during Lake Placid and all that stuff like that. Kind of just showcasing what New York has. And then we go out of the area a little bit, kind of realistic type hunting or fishing or stuff like that somebody from New York would actually do. And so we've been having fun with that, but I mean, it makes everything pretty tight when it comes to time.
Yeah, you're busy. You're a retired guy, but it's not like you're retired. You're always doing stuff. So again, appreciate you coming on the show and appreciate you having us out there this last summer. It was a good time out on the boat with you and just enjoying Lake Erie.
Yeah, it was a great time. I'm looking forward to you guys coming out. Got to get your partner in crime over there to.
Yeah, they don't let me leave.
All right, Captain Jim Steele from Dreamcatcher Sport Fishing. Thanks for anchoring the end of the show. You're the last guest. You have a great night.
You too. Take care. Thanks for having this.
Thank you. All right, that is a wrap. One last thing. Bill Langben, you are the question of the segment for Captain Jim Steele. We're done. You got anything else?
I think there's some pizza left downstairs in the fridge. But thanks everybody for watching, and again, thank you for doing the heavy listening and getting everybody lined up to come on.
Well, thanks for letting me do what I do.
Hey.
I always tell people, it can't be that hard. I get to talk about fishing and write about fishing and think about fishing, and I get a paycheck for it.
It could definitely be worse.
It could definitely be worse. I live the dream every day, right?
Awesome.
All right. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. It was amazing having everybody watching and having the guests that we had. This is truly what I enjoy to do, and it's so awesome to see people want to be a part of it and have people want to be a part and watch it and just check this out. So great time, and maybe we'll see them next year.
Maybe.
All right. Take care, everybody.